Oh, hello.
Hello. That should probably be transmitting now.
Voice is coming through on the stream.
Thank you for letting me know. I can turn off the stream manager now. So it's probably using more RAM than it should. Come on, Spotify. Perhaps Spotify is not going to do its own thing. Okay. We have the Warm and Pleasant Home playlist going. And I believe who? Zesty. There we go.
Yep.
Oh, you're here. Great. Welcome. I am not showing your face, so you can show us your face if you would like to. Otherwise,
it's all good.
And so, actually, I guess let's have everybody introduce themselves and talk about why they're here and what they do. I can start. I'm Mags. I use they, them. And I have been getting into game design quite a bit lately, especially through Cold Hearth Collective, and I wanted to start running some trophies that I get more experience with that. Interested in writing for Trophy, and it's not an accident. I started with this incursion because it's written by a good friend of mine who's here in the channel. So, yeah, I don't know who wants to go next. But yeah.
No one. I can go.
Cool.
I'm Carla. I work in video games, and I've been playing a whole lot of D&D lately, partially to stay sane and partially as therapy, and it's really good, and I am excited about trying out different systems because D&D seems woefully inadequate sometimes.
Yeah. What pronouns?
She, her.
Great.
Thank you for asking.
I guess JJ? Or if you want to go by Aether Pilot.
JJ's cool. I had my thing muted, and I was like tapping things and kind of going like, man, I better not disconnect right now. Anyways, JJ is cool. I actually go with they them also. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of tabletop RPG stuff recently, more in the like kind of OSR vein. And I actually connected to Trophy because of Jason Cordova's Fear of Black Dragon, and I kind of came sideways into the whole thing. And this was supposed to be my first game, but I actually played one earlier today with Jason. So,
Nice.
and actually with and actually with Mike, who I guess wrote this. Michael, who wrote this incursion that we're going to do. I played the incursion we did earlier. He was in it too, so I met him.
Nice. Yeah, I had heard that someone played with you, and Jakes, I guess you're up.
Sure. Hello, I am Heretic Soul, or Jakes sometimes. I don't do games for a living, but I've been diving back into tabletop games a lot over the last year, especially more narrative-driven stuff like Forged in the Dark systems and just smaller short-form tabletop games. If you have questions about tabletop games involving mechs, I'm probably your guy to go to, and I am him.
And so, as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to play A Warm and Pleasant Hum, an incursion for Trophy Dark. Trophy is very rules light compared to most other games, similar to Forged in the Dark, or other Forged in the Dark, I guess. It has Devil's Bargains, and you're rolling d6s to determine, I would say success or failure, except I would really say the extent of failure, because Trophy Dark is a play-to-lose game. You know the conclusion of the narrative, which is that you will die in your pursuit of treasure, or lose yourself in your pursuit of treasure, I should say, rather than die. And so, the nice thing about a play-to-lose game is that means that you play for what's interesting to the narrative rather than for what's tactically viable. It is, however, a horror incursion, or a horror game system. This particular incursion features bees quite heavily, and so if themes relating to bees are troubling to you, be that insects or pollen or allergies, there's a generous content warning for that, but I, as a GM, really heavily favor, or rather, I will avoid most other problematic stuff. So you may see character death of animals and insects, but you are unlikely to see racism, misogyny, sexual assault, etc. Mostly, this particular incursion does not lean on any of those themes. And I would appreciate if we did not introduce them. Similarly, we will be using the X card, so if anybody needs to stop for any reason, please type an X in chat. I will also not be offended if you take a break and step away. Michael, the author of this incursion, is around, and so probably after Ring 2, we will invite him in. You can ask any questions you have for him yourselves, or I do have some prepared. And with that said, the intro to this incursion, A Warm and Pleasant Hum, is as follows. The human world has room for many monarchs, but the humming woods has only one queen. This six-legged mother of millions dines exclusively on an elixir said to cure any ill, or even extends one's life, a royal jelly of matchless quality. Few dare attempt to steal any jelly away, protected as it is by the swarms that live in her remote hive, the sixth form heart. But what if one had grander dreams than of a waxed sack of purloined jelly? If one can claim the queen, one can control her enormous six-legged family and the wealth their industry represents. But the denizens of the six-form heart have a loyalty that is pheromone-fueled and absolute, and the venomous means to protect their home and monarch. So, as that introduction suggests, you will be creating adventurers who are journeying into the woods after the mother of millions and the royal elixir she and hers guard. And so, did everybody create characters, or would people like to spend some time working on that now? And if so, do people want to introduce themselves? Their characters.
I mean, you have mine up. I made one. I don't know about everybody else.
Ooh, you started at 5 ruin.
I
Ooh.
I literally did not know what I was doing. It was just there.
I will suggest that you may not want all 4 rituals, and so
Oh, please.
this brings in a good point. Ruin is the only stat in this game, and when your ruin reaches 6, you are no more.
Okay.
And so,
it's high. Oh, I didn't see the connection.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Interesting.
that was my bad. I perhaps was not clear enough when I.
No, I should have seen the connection when I used the pull downs, but I didn't connect those cells like mentally.
So,
cool.
Julia is your character's name?
Yeah.
And I see.
Do you wanna?
He is an escaped cultist who wants to restore the name of his scandal-stricken family. Do you have ideas about what that scandal might be, or should we?
Yeah. I mean, I've got some stuff lying around. I don't know if you can use it or not. Basically, I figured that his family is sort of a multi-generational, sort of like evil gardening Gwyneth Paltrow, kind of like horrible, like natural quote unquote remedies and herbs and such like that are grown and cultivated through nefarious means, and it was discovered and the cult was raided and disbanded. And my character, who was like a teenager at the time, didn't really know the extent of what was happening, and so he is now he's now at the point where he can see like his family who's been ruined, and he's like, well, clearly we just need to restore things to their former glory because everyone was happy back a couple years ago before my family's farm was destroyed. He doesn't really know what was happening in there.
See. I guess JJ, I know that you had built your character earlier.
I did, and I was going to have the occupation be assassin, but I felt like that was so so like especially after my one earlier today, so I made him a messenger anyhow. So I was playing Matthias, and he, him, his Matthias pronouns, and the background of a weak-eyed scout, and recently as a messenger. So he's certainly somebody that's running around, becoming a part of the swirling court. So the other people may not know this yet, but the worse his vision is getting, the more he's seeing into something else. And that something else has kind of fed him these couple of rituals that helps him on his way, and he's perhaps messengering for an actual court at some point, but also messengering for what he thinks is behind the veil. And it may or may not actually be true. He might just be going crazy. But anyways, he thinks that whatever's behind the veil, the swirling court, is what actually controls the universe, and it's fed him some of these rituals. So he's out to see if he can perhaps make this incursion into this hive to up his standing and to see what's behind this court and what members of the Swirling Court might be living here, and so hopefully I'll be able to help. And that was about as far as I got.
That's
Do we
a
in the
fun
world
concept.
do we have knowledge of what the Swirling Court is?
No. I'm going
Okay.
to say no.
I was thinking not, but I didn't care one way or another. I figured it was some make it unclear whether or not Matthias was a bit crazy, but he certainly got power from something. Like he can't see very well because he's always looking like around everybody, seeing these figures that are kind of wandering around. And he thinks are dancing the strings of reality.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I also like the idea that other people don't know, and so you are looking at things that only you know are there.
Cool.
So yeah, how about Heretic? You tell me about Linnea.
So I will be playing Linnea. Who uses her pronouns are she, her. Linnea is a grounded sailor whose drive is to finance an expedition into the Blossoming Sea. My kind of vision for her is that she is a captain that has not been given a command since the incident, and has been seeking to get back into the good graces of the powers that be and the powers of the sea. And I think a voyage into the Blossoming Sea, I'm envisioning it's kind of like a voyage of the Dawn Treader, impossible journey type thing. I think such a voyage could only be financed by an unusual financier who has promised effectively a blank check for her expedition, provided that she can deliver a most unusual prize to the financier.
I think certainly some journeys into the Blossoming Sea are dangerous for all who would attempt them. So a fun part about Trophy is that there are often... I said before that really this is dark fantasy and there's no other setting knowledge requirements, but if you're interested in Trophy and the world of Trophy, there are a number of crowdsourced and directly sourced excerpts about Trophy in the Codex magazine. So you're absolutely none of that is necessary for this incursion, but you're definitely welcome to look at it. And so, together, you have joined forces and set out to venture into the Blossoming Woods, or the Humming Woods, after that royal elixir. What do the outskirts of the Humming Woods look like? I imagine giant kind of... It's orchard that has gone wild, and so you see giant flowering trees that are tangled and gnarled together. And of course, the Humming Woods is named for the omnipresent hum that pervades through it. And so even as you approach the woods from outside, you can hear the pervasive hum. And as you approach, making your way through these gnarled trees, you see a group of people dressed as apiarists coming out of the woods. They're wearing bulky, long-sleeved clothes and mesh that covers their faces, hanging from brimmed hats. However, they were not quite so clever in armoring their horse against the stings. And so this group of people, whose identities you can't see through the mesh and the bulky clothes, is chasing a panicked horse. And you can see that they had tried to fashion a mesh mask around the horse's neck, but at some point it came apart, and you can see stingers emerging from the horse's swollen face. As the horse bolts towards you, kicking and bucking and trying to shake now dismissed bees from its face. You hear the calls of the apiarist party. Stop him! He has all our supplies! Please just catch his reins! As the horse bucks. But even as the horse looks up at you, you see the animal fear in the horse's eyes, as it seems more of a menace or a monster. It does not seem like it will be happy for anything that you would do to catch it. And so how do you respond?
Linnea instinctively, or subconsciously, like tries to grab the reins as it runs by.
Well, I think, you have this bucking horse, and you are trying to grab the reins. That seems like a risk roll to me. And so do you have any skills that you think would be helpful here?
My pitch would be I have a skill in ropes. I would say that Linnea's experience with onto fluttering lines and sheets in the midst of a gale force wind might offer her some advantage here.
So, yeah, I guess your skill in ropes for wrangling the reins would certainly be helpful. Does anybody have a good devil's bargain for something that might happen here?
Can I ask you to explain that?
So a devil's bargain is something that happens no matter what. And so it's usually negative, but sometimes it's just narratively interesting, right? And so, for example, as Linnea is grabbing for the horse's reins, you could say that the horse kicks Linnea's pack, or arm, so that Linnea can't hold anything, right? And so that's a thing that happens no matter what, but it would give Linnea an extra die on this particular success, or a particular risk roll. It would just cause a narrative consequence going forward.
So the implication is that she would not be able to hold anything with her arm for the rest of the game? Or?
Yes, exactly.
I see. Curious.
And so that's just one example of a devil's bargain. And this is something Linnea has the option of accepting, right? And so Heretic Soul does not need to say, oh, that definitely happens. But you have to choose whether or not to accept it before you see the consequence of the roll.
All right, going the other way, maybe Linnea can stop the horse, but the horse will somehow become attached and will refuse to budge for the previous owners, and will follow Linnea around, having to sort of take care of it.
Doesn't sound like that bad of a bargain, although unless if it's very injured, then it might be a lot.
Grab a horse, get a horse.
Okay.
That's the rules.
So, our two devil's bargains are Linnea gets injured in the attempt to grab the reins, or the horse pursues Linnea after Linnea grabs for the reins, regardless of whether or not Linnea succeeds. Do either of those sound good to you, Heretic?
Actually, yeah. The second one sounds like it could be fun. I think if I succeed, then the horse will follow me around.
Well, even if you don't succeed, the horse will follow you around. This is the devil's bargain.
So how many light
So
dice or should I be
that
rolling
sounds
for
like
that?
two light dice. Are you willing to risk your life or health?
Not yet, I think. The time will come for that.
Okay. So how about you roll 2 light dice, which you can do in the die rolls channel by doing %trophy space 20 or space 2 space 0. And so the first number is the number of light dice, the second number is the number of dark dice.
Awesome. Well, results appear to be a 1 and a 2.
So this goes badly. And so you grab for the horse's reins, and the horse bucks to the side, kicking out at you, and kind of whirls on one foot, eyes rolling, and charges at you, treating you as the monster that is hurting it. So it's actively in pain. So what do you do now?
Jeez.
Can I cast, or can I cast my Topsy-Turvy spell and turn the horse upside down?
You absolutely can.
Touch it.
So yeah, I mean, we can decide how that would look like. So how do you vision casting that ritual to look?
Let's see. Well, I have to touch the horse. I'm going to imagine that it involves touching some part of it and basically taking 2 hands and like pretending to turn it over like a beach ball, basically. Just kind of making the gesture without actually necessarily doing it.
So to use a ritual, that's a risk roll, and the ritual gives you a dark die on the roll.
Okay.
If the dark die exceeds your ruin will go up. And that does mean that you get the option of a devil's bargain. So here you are trying to flip over the horse. You are going horse flipping, as it were.
I am doing that.
And so, does anybody have an idea of what a good devil's bargain would be? As Kato is walking up to the horse and trying to bat it, kind of like a beach ball, so it will roll away from Linnea. Yeah.
I'd say perhaps if it succeeds, it rolls over, but or I guess regardless, some of the Aperus supplies on the horse are damaged as it rolls over.
Oh,
Okay.
good.
I guess, JJ, if you have one.
No, that's good.
Okay. Do you accept that then, Kato?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So you get 1 light die and 1 dark die.
Okay. So 1 space 1. Is that correct? That's
Percent trophy 1 space 1. So you step up to the horse and give it kind of the gentlest of shoves, and the horse goes flying. It's as if you were a giant and just rolled the horse, or the horse was actually a tiny model horse filled with helium, and it rolls an incredible distance. You hear it crash down a hill, and if you walk up to the edge of the hill, you would see the horse laying in a crumbled pile at the bottom of this steep incline.
Oh no, did I kill it?
Yes, the horse is no more,
Oh, curses.
having
Oh,
been
no.
bowled through
Okay.
many trees.
He
To
feels
be
bad
fair-
about it. That was not. Oh, sorry.
The horse was already having a bad day when you first saw it. You know, you can still see before, the remnants of stingers poking out of the horse's face from where it had been stunned dozens of times deeper in the Hemming Woods. You can see, just as described, the Apiers who are now cursing you as they back away slowly out of the forest. But you do see the shattered and crushed pile of supplies laying around this horse.
He's like apologizing frantically, like waving at everyone and being like, "Oh, Chip, so sorry. That's not what I meant to do at all. I was trying to help, and I, oh Jesus, oh, I don't know what to say." He's very upset.
We haven't heard from you, Matthias. What's Matthias doing right now?
Matthias, after this is kind of going on, he's peering about and he kind of goes. So, first of all, we made it just inside the edge of the
Yes,
forest, and
you
then
are.
we came upon. Okay, and
Yep.
so the horse crashed through these trees and things over to the side. Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can hear that having happened, but I don't know exactly where it's gone. So I kind of look to Linnea, or I kind of walk near to Linnea, and I say I don't hear it anymore. Should I run over? Is there any supplies? Do you need anything for me to get anything over there? I'm kind of like eager to move, but I'm not sure really where it's gone. Like I can kind of hear where it's gone, and I can move through the forest pretty well, oddly enough. But I can't see where the thing is. So I'm basically asking Linnea like if I should go try to grab like what sounds like it's a terrible idea.
I think Linnea is still looks like I got bowled over, right? I think Linnea is
Yeah.
picking herself up and still a little tender, like, I guess you should go see where it fell or something. Give me a sec.
Do you
I kind of help her up somewhat.
give Matthias any indication, as Matthias is definitely watching the antics of some dancers who are not here?
Oh, yeah, no, I will point in the direction that it tumbled into the woods.
So sorry, not to cut you off.
I'll start trotting. I'll start trotting in that direction. I mean, when I'm near the objects, I'm not like fumbling about.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But I certainly can't see in the distance. But I will start trotting in that direction to see if there's anything
Mhm.
salvageable.
So
Giving-
you see...
Giving Kato a wide berth, by the way, in case I'm going in Kato's direction. I'm like, so unnatural things kind of go around.
He's apologizing to you as you go by. I'm sorry. I forgot your name, but I'm sorry. It's very sad.
Among the crushed supplies, you see a shattered vial of some kind of viscous purple liquid and a crude map.
I grab the map. No, I'm not totally ridiculous. I look at the purple stuff and I go, it'd be interesting to taste it, but I don't think any of them will take it. So I'll take the map and I'll jog back.
Okay.
Just basically say. In fact, my hands are kind of covered with a little bit of the purple stuff. I say, there's nothing salvageable. Do I take? Yeah, I say the map. Or you said it was a map? I'm sorry.
I did. I said it was a map.
Okay. I hand the map to Linnea. I'm like, this is the only thing that was salvageable. I'm kind of like wiping my hands on my breeches.
It's wiping the horse off.
Yeah, wiping partial horse and partial purple stuff.
So yeah, as
Rough.
Matthias hands you this paper, you see a cartoon of a bee with a collar and leash around its neck. It definitely seems like dog-sized. This is not a tiny bee, as perhaps you have experienced growing up with your childhood, the hives that pollinated your childhood farm. But yeah, this is enormous, and you would guess, just by the leg, kind of near this bee, that the stinger maybe is the size of a human foot. But as he hands it to you, on the other side, you can see there's kind of a rough sketch of the forest with 3 giant circles with kind of notes on where the bees seem to scout and where they seem to return to. So how does
this could be useful?
How do you feel about this map and cartoon?
I think initially, at least, I kind of brushed past the cartoon because the first thing I think draws my eyes is like, oh, we just got here and we've already got a rough map of this place. That could be. I think Linnea's like calling everyone over, like, here, come take a look at this. I think we can find our way through the woods with this.
Is Linnea bragging? You do have
not
an
open.
incredibly useful item.
True. I don't think Linnea is outright bragging, but I think Linnea is very much shifting into like ship captain mode, like acting very important and knowledgeable as she like points out possible routes through the rough sketch. Just turning him with eyes like, great find! Holy smokes!
So the royal elixir is said to be able to cure any ail. Not to mention, it is incredibly valuable. If you're right and you can find your way through the Humming Woods with the help of this map, how would your lives change?
Well, with such fantastical properties, Matthias absolutely hopes that either it will make his vision worse or it'll make it better. But he definitely wants to see his ethereal friends. Oh, she's I'm ether pilot. Anyways, he definitely wants to see his ethereal friends more carefully or cure his eyes. But he's sure something called royal jelly that can cure all ills will help him perhaps join this other set of royalty.
What about Linneo and Cato?
Sorry, cat was yelling. I think Cato doesn't really understand the power of it all, so probably he just expects to secure it, sell it, and put the money into starting up his family's extremely dubious farm again.
And
so they can all be together, which he assumes is good.
I think similarly, Linnea is a merchant by trade, merchant and sailor by trade, and so I was thinking less about what it can do for her and more about the doors it can open for her by way of trade.
How will you succeed where others have failed? The Apiers who just left the woods had this map. You found it among their stuff. How will you overcome whatever obstacle caused their failure?
They did seem to have beekeeper's gear. Do we have that?
Do you?
Oops. Sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, do you? You're welcome to have come prepared for, it's not a mystery as to why these are called the Humming Woods.
Perhaps that's what we should have done, just because just seeing the previous group, it seemed like the major error was not outfitting the entire party, e.g. the horse, unless I'm missing something major here. What do y'all think?
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like I can travel light and fast, and I've got like a padded jerkin and some gloves and like a mesh hood that I can pull up. So it's not perfect, but it's certainly lightweight in the direction of being protected. I'm kind of looking at what I'm thinking of as the merchants already, and kind of smiling, going, "Oh, we're all prepared. We're all prepared. We should run along. Come on."
Do we have any kind of? Were you asking if we had any kind of like greater plan?
Yeah.
Or, I see. Have we? What should we try to manage here? Are we expecting, German Shepherd-sized bees? And I don't really know what our plan would be for that. I don't know what y'all's capabilities are in general.
I feel like I'm confident in my scouting. I can hear my way to the buzzing, and that's what I hopefully was the draw of having me along. But now with the map, I'm super excited that Linnea can guide us. I don't seem to be able to read, but Linnea can guide us in the right direction. I can keep scooching ahead. I don't know if we have an actual plan, but it was convincing enough as a scout, saying that I could hear and I could move, and hopefully guide our way somewhat.
So you're kind of trying to be the way in to the beginning of the heist.
Yeah, I have a background as a scout, and I was already a messenger. I don't know if either of you, if we met at some other time, but I'd poke ahead.
Presumably you
back.
met before you entered the woods together. So,
But if you guys have a plan, Matthias is certainly willing to follow what you guys think. As of now, he does.
I sure don't have a plan. Kato can do some plant tricks, but he figured that would be helpful in the forest, since it is a forest. But he doesn't have anything concrete. He doesn't know what form the hive that we're going to will take, really, and what it will take to get into it and out again. I don't know if you all do.
Yeah, no, I think Linnea feels very improvisational about the whole thing. Like, like fortune favors the bold and all that. Like, hey, we may not know what we're going to find, but the best thing that we can do is be quick on our feet about it.
So it seems like Kato is, kind of wanting to have this conversation and like actually be careful about it, having seen the evidence of failure. And Matthias is like, I've been a scout before dozens of times. I can just go on ahead. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? And Linnea is somewhere in between, saying, we don't know what we're up against, so we'll have to make the plans when we see it.
Yeah, I kind of move forward towards like the next set of trees and like listen a little bit, and then kind of trot back to Linnea, and I kind of smile and like nod, like, which way? Give like kind of a suspicious glare at Kato, although I'm pretty impressed with the horse thing. That made me a little nervous. So I'm like, as far as it looked like to me, Kato just walked over there and just tossed the horse over the edge. So I'm kind of like, so I walk back and I'm smiling at Kato, but I'm like,
So as you walk deeper into this kind of overgrown orchard, you feel the second effect that the woods are known for, which is the warmth. The deeper you get into this wood, the warmer it is. It's not unpleasantly hot, but it makes you think of sleepy summer days laying in the grass. You find your clothes sticking unpleasantly to your body as the humidity is incredibly high. You're kind of walking downhill through these gnarled trees, and the trees are getting more and more sparse until they eventually open up to a floodplain, and you see this shallow inland sea. You're walking through this swamp, and every bit of the water has a distinct golden hue as the plain is full of flowering plants. Flowers of every color, and then some. You don't even recognize Dino. Kato, you were an herbalist, and you recognize many rare varieties of flowers, but not all of them. And so their stalks poke skyward, even as you find yourselves up to your knees in pollen-soaked water. And to travel through these flowers, you will be pushing through stalks that are taller than your head. And their roots, obscured beneath the pollen in the water, are rough and seem to catch at your feet. Who is leading the way?
Yeah, I'm going out in front and sort of scouting around and run a little ways and sniff, touch the ground. Actually, since it's getting so warm, I shouldn't do it. But I take the gloves off and like put them behind me in my belt, so my hands are out. And I'm touching the ground and kind of sniffing the air and listening, and ranging back and forth slightly ahead of the group. Visibly, but just trying to search out the best route through this golden-hued, swampy vista.
So I'm going to say that as you're separating yourself from the group to kind of explore the best path forward, and because this particular floodplain is so lush and so densely packed with foliage and flowers, I think that's a risk roll. You are separating yourself, and it's possible they could not find you if something were to happen. And so I would say what you were trying to do here is find the best route forward. And the consequence is you fall and potentially drown in this pollen-soaked water far away from your fellows.
All right, I have at least one light die for navigation. I hope that's okay.
Yep.
Any devil's bargains?
Let's see. Anyone can chip in one. Feel free to talk over me.
He's successful, but bad poison ivy.
I was actually going to say, you're describing kind of taking off your gloves and plunging your hands into the water, kind of feeling around. And I think your arms become covered in pollen, similar to the way bees' legs do. So it's just all packed on there, and you have basically these thick, heavy sleeves of pollen.
Ooh, yeah, that sounds reasonably strange and interesting here. I'll go for that. So,
okay.
Should I go ahead and roll my?
That would be 2 light dice.
2 light dice. Oops, let me do it with the actual.
Unless
roller.
you're willing to
I picked up my dice in my hand.
put yourself at risk or use a ritual.
Not yet. But if I do really poorly, can I add?
Yes.
Can I add? Is it true?
You can add a dark die
Okay.
if you do poorly enough. Yes.
All right. Let me see what I get, and hope this roller works for me. Oh, 4 with consequence, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Could I ask what the consequence is?
No, you can't.
okay, I will take the consequence anyhow. So I'll have the pawn as I'm like reaching around and searching my way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're reaching around and your arms become packed with hot pollen, similar to the way bees' legs do, and you are looking for the best path forward, and you find a reasonably clear one. But you do so because a bunch of bee scouts seem to have found you. And so you find yourself in a procession of, I would say, cat-sized bees. They're not the biggest, but they're also not small. All walking towards, like through the floodplain. The bees themselves mostly flying low over the surface of this kind of pollen soup. And so you are completely surrounded by bees, and you have 2 bees on your arms, slowly scraping away the pollen that's caked on there, and shoveling it, packing it onto their legs and into their mouth. But you are able to get back to your companions, who may or may not be happy to see you with these
Yeah, I'm moving slowly
bees
back. Oh, sorry.
on your arms. No, it's fine.
I'm moving slowly back, like if you see somebody with like something on their arm, of course, and like just kind of with my head back going, this might not be right, but maybe if I'm a little still, trying to like walk really smoothly. Friends, I found a way, but there might be an issue. I'm kind of holding my arms out away from me with the cat-sized bees on them.
How do Kato and Linnea feel about these bees?
Like, culturally, how are they looked at? Like, people understand that the woods are sort of, I don't know, they're magical and terrifying? Are we scared by default of the bees?
I don't think you're scared by default, but these are bigger bees than you have ever seen, right? You grew up on a farm, and you, with, herbalist parents, and so I imagine you kept a hive, and those bees were the size of real world bees, they might have been half an inch long. Or, bees. And these bees being the size of cats and clinging to Matthias's arms are freaky. They're freaky the way real world bees would be. And these woods are mysterious, and it is known that the bees will kill you or animals if they take it in their heads to do so.
Okay. So Kato will definitely be like, oh man, you should not make any sudden moves. God, I don't know if you noticed, but you got some extremely large bees just standing right on you right now.
I'm nodding my head, kind of like, are they sort of taking the pollen off? Like, in other words, does it look like they're going to have a certain amount at some point, maybe be done, or they just kind of hang out there, or do I have?
I would say that they look like they might be done, but that they might finish. But right now, they started at your shoulders and we're going to work their way down. But you're pretty denuded of pollen at your shoulders, and they're still scraping, and so you can feel the rasp of their legs and mandibles against your shoulder flesh.
Yeah, no fast moves. I understand. Maybe we could wait here for a moment, and then I could show you the way. Once these little bee friends go.
Are they your friends? When did that happen?
I'm kind of looking friends. Yeah, friends. We're all friends. Apparently, Matthias starts calling everybody friends when he gets nervous.
Wow.
How does Linnea feel?
I think similarly. I think Linnea. Jeez. I think Linnea is just like, yes, friends. I guess we're friends. Are they our friends? Are they? Mm.
I'm gonna say I think this is a ruin roll for Matthias at this point. The bees are scraping your shoulders. Like, you are developing, like, bloody spots on your shoulders where they've scraped away the skin. And so that's just one dark die.
Can... Oh.
So your ruin goes up 1. And I think you find yourself compelled to kind of hum. Like, you're nervous, you're concerned about these bees that are scraping at your shoulders, and you start humming with anxiety, but start kind of harmonizing with the hum of the woods themselves, right? So you have this kind of persistent atonal hum coming out of your mouth, with occasional inflection. So what was that, Kato?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No.
Oh, I was going to say, can I locate a really heavy pollen plant nearby? Like, I don't know, like a goldenrod or
Sure.
like a linden tree or something that has just a heap of pollen.
Yeah.
And do my germinate ritual on it so that it becomes larger and more enticing.
Yeah, I would say, so what are you actually trying to do? You're trying to distract, basically offer these bees some bribe to leave Matthias alone?
Something more delicious, yeah.
Okay.
More interesting.
So, yeah, I say that's a risk roll. You can absolutely use your ritual to do it. And do you have any skills that are useful?
Plants, potentially deception. Depending on how you want to look at that.
I think plants is totally valid. Deception, I'm not convinced.
That's fine. What does that, I'm sorry, I have not,
So for your skill, that's 1 light die. For the ritual, that's 1 dark die.
Got it.
If you're willing to put yourself at risk, that's a 2nd dark die.
Sure. Why not?
And
Let's do that.
if you want a devil's bargain, we can toss that to the table.
I think I would have to consider what that would be.
I think the most obvious one is that everyone gets covered in pollen, right? You're making a pollen-heavy plant super big, like presumably near enough to you to bribe these bees away. And so I think everyone is going to be caked in pollen. I think that would be my devil's bargain.
That sounds like a bargain I would not take, because that is the the situation I'm trying to avoid here.
Fair
I don't
enough.
know about everybody else. Alright. Well, I'll just roll this, I guess.
Yeah.
That's what happened. I do not understand this system yet, forgive me.
No, it's fine. Trophy 1, 2. So that's a partial success, but your ruin goes up 1.
Okay.
So it's success with a consequence. I think.
Do I add it in? How do I do that?
Yes,
Sorry.
I would put that in the ruin column. So there's like a separate
Right.
column all the way to the right.
But do I put the final number there, or
Yeah,
only
I would
the
put
additional
4 there.
number? I see. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I wrote this. Anyway, it's fine.
Oh, it's fine.
Um,
Don't worry about it.
And so so you find a goldenrod, and it's already large, but you lay hands on this goldenrod. I guess, what does germinate look like in your head?
I think like touching the bottom of the stem where it touches the ground, and then like sort of like petting it all the way up to the top, so that in sort of a upward motion.
Okay, so you kind of, find yourself running your hands all up and down this goldenrod, which just explodes in size, covering you with pollen as well, but successfully distracting the bees. And you see the way Matthias's eyes follow the bees as they leave his arms, and you hear the way he hums in perfect harmony with the bees that were on his arms, and you think of the way he just called those bees his friends, and you know that Matthias is on the side of the mother of millions. He will betray you.
Okay.
But in the meantime...
Do we all know this?
Nope, you know this.
Okay.
More to the point, you have the condition paranoid. Matthias has the condition humming, basically. And, yeah. Conditions are a mechanic in Trophy. That are what happen as your rune goes up and they get worse. And so, Matthias, you have found a reasonable path. All you have to do is follow these cat-sized bees as they hover over the surface of the water, and you will be able to proceed out of this floodplain and back into the woods in pursuit of the sixth form heart. How do you communicate this to people?
I just ask them once the other bees come off, and I'm kind of humming along, and I'm wiping whatever this pollen that's still on my arms kind of off, and kind of looking at it curiously, like that seems very interesting. But I smile up at everybody as I'm like kind of dusting pollen at them and humming, and I say, well, I found the way. We have to be somewhat careful, but I'm sure that the little things will be won't bother us at all now. That's my guess. But come along.
But how do you know that? Like, really? Sorry. Just trying to be paranoid.
No, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Kato's done a couple of things. I take one step back from Kato, but I'm still smiling. I say, I have faith in all my friends' abilities, and I'm kind of staring at Kato and like nodding. I have faith in all of our abilities. Come. The Nea will show us the way with the map, and we don't have that much farther to go. I'm confident we're nearly there before night falls. We'll have absconded with everything that we need. Come.
Linnea, you were just thrown into this conversation. How do you feel?
Is this marsh marked on the map?
There's a shaded spot that might be this marsh, right? Someone has crosshatched an area.
Okay, and is that looking at that? Is it clear that we are close to the center of the woods, or does it look like there's still a ways to go?
There's still a ways to go. However, you can smell the sweet perfume of flowers, and you think that you can just begin to scent a tantalizing aroma of honey.
Yeah, I think Linnea responds like, well, we still have some ways to go yet. We'll have to hurry if we're going to make it by nightfall, but we are definitely drawing closer.
Even as you say, we have to hurry, you feel a yawn come over you. It is tough going, right? You're knee deep in water, slugging through. It's hot and humid and heavily perfumed. And all you want to do is take a nap. Who is leading the way as you follow this procession of bees?
I think unless Matthias volunteers themselves to take the lead again, Linnea will kind of take the Pathfinder spot at the head of the group.
So
yeah, if the area is cleared, we can kind of see. I'll definitely have Linnea sort of guide the way. If it gets to a spot where it's like a question of one way or another, I might poke out a head. But otherwise, I'm kind of rubbing my shoulders where they're raw, kind of yawning a bit. Oh, and humming.
So everybody needs to be looking at their feet as they're walking, as the roots of these plants continue to obstruct the path, and you are not so lucky as to be able to fly above the surface of the water, as the bees you're following do. And you find yourselves... Also, it sounds like Kato's in the back, and it's increasingly hard to keep up with the party. And you see the clear spots on Matthias's shoulders are becoming kind of increasingly caked in pollen, as ahead of you he brushes against the exposed filaments projecting from the flower stamens. And you see that the bloody patches on his shoulders begin to cake golden as pollen settles back in, just as the pollen is loaded onto the legs of those bees that you're following. You can see, as you look up briefly, just seeds floating above you, little dandelion puffs, but that are somehow the size of parasols. Linnea, in front, you find yourself struggling even more to move forward. You're taking the brunt of the pollen as you are shoving your way through these flowers initially. And you find it hard to proceed as you cough every time you push through more flowers.
I think Linnea is kind of offhandedly like, Matthias, how did you get through here so easily?
I smile and I have my mesh hood over and I smile underneath, kind of humming, going, well, it didn't say I made it all the way over yet, just that this is a path. Got to know these things. It's just a path. And I yawn underneath, but kind of like do a little hummy laugh and try to sort of push, not like aggressively, just kind of pushing Linnea a little bit. Keep going, keep going.
A little hummy laugh. Trying to imagine what that sounds like.
I want to do it. I want to do it maybe too strange on the mic thing, but like kind of
Excellent. Thank you.
Very good.
That was a joy.
So, Linnea, what creature besides these bees do you see easily navigating between the flower stalks?
Oh boy, I mean, the first thing that would perhaps come to mind would be a fish kind of flitting through the roots.
How would this have been easier if you had your crew with you?
As a quick question, is the thing that's making it tough going the pollen, or is it that the roots are so entangled and thick
For
together?
you right now, it's the fact that it's hard to breathe through the pollen.
I think that way, I think, yeah, I'm not sure having more of a crew would have helped. I think perhaps if we had a crew here, the way we would have been bushwhacking our way through the marsh, which might not have necessarily thinned the pollen in the air, but may have helped to cut some of the pollen-bearing plants from our path, at least. So struggling was less of a matter. And I think at that point, an idea strikes Linnea. Tap back over here. One of my rituals is the ability to conjure and guide a mighty wind. I think at this point, Linnea is just like, I just need clear air to breathe.
So your objective is to clear away some of this oppressive pollen. And you intend to do
Yes.
that by using a ritual. So that's one dark die. Do you have a skill that you're going to use as well?
I think the only that could come close would be focus. I'm not sure how exactly that would apply.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I think the risk here is what attention you might attract, both from the bees and whatever else lives in this wood, by using such a ritual, right? Winds are not
Yeah.
known for their locality and discretion. So yeah, I'm not sure that focus applies, but see, Devil's Bargains. Does anybody have a good one?
Let's see. The wind could. Let's see, what's a good knock-on effect? I guess it could knock over, let's say, a tree that would make our way harder, but the air would be clear. Is that a good one? I'm having a hard time, like, understanding the.
Yeah. Well, I'm just
making it
imagining,
control
like
at
this wind, and you're in this floodplain full of flowers that are taller than you are. And what Linnea wants to do is clear the pollen. So yeah, you're saying something large could be knocked over to obstruct the way. I think that's a good one, but the way is already fairly obstructed with these tangled roots.
That's true.
I think one thing is we established that you're wearing these masks, right? And I think perhaps, Linnea, your mask would be blown away. This mesh that you're wearing over your face to protect from the bees.
Yeah, I like that one,
Okay.
actually.
So that's one light die for the Devil's Bargain and one dark die. You can have another dark die if you're willing to put yourself in the way of physical harm.
That would be another dark die.
Mm-hmm. No, a light. Oh yeah, another dark die. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. You know what? I'm curious enough at this point to see what that would entail.
Okay. So that's one light die and two dark dice. Yep.
Nearly types trophy 12. Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that
So,
is 6 on the light and 2
6
twos on the dark.
Wow.
So yeah, you conjure this wind, and it battens down the flowers around you, and sucks the pollen out of the air. But I think as you kind of like crush these stems beneath the wind, you find that some of the torn leaves and petals are blown through the air at ridiculous force and scrape against your cheeks such that you're oozing blood from your face from where you've been cut by these fragmented leaves and petals. But other than that, excellent. Kato, what item do you see Matthias drop in surprise as the wind kind of rushes through?
He's a scout. Does he have something like binoculars or a I don't know, a spyglass or something like that? But I guess he's not really a vision kind of guy. I guess it could be if I wanted to be horrible, I could say like a compass.
Yeah, perhaps a compass. I was also thinking that perhaps Matthias brought coals such that you could burn and smoke the bees, right? And the bag that they were being carried in is crashed into the water. Linnea, in the newly cleared area with the crushed flowers all around you, you see an enormous moose parade past you on the way out of the woods.
Oh.
You see that it has a broad rack of antlers, which are absolutely coated in honey. There are bees crushed on the antlers and beneath the moose's hooves. However, some living bees seem to ride the moose, not stinging it, just clinging to it, attempting to rescue the nectar from where it's rendered useless. The bee's snout is sticky and stuck with honey, and you can see a golden crust on the moose's footprints as you can follow them back deeper into the wood.
Linnea consults the map. Consults the map quickly, looks up at the trail leading off into the woods and says, well, I think we've just found an indication of a way deeper in.
The moose isn't too nearby, like it's coming out of the woods and then kind of
It's walking
moving
past you, and with it comes a breath of cooler air as you see the sun touch the horizon. The sun is setting. The humming itself in the woods seems to be getting quieter, sleepier, as you see the last of the bees following this trail out of the floodplain and deeper into the woods. What will you do here? Where will you make camp?
Is there a place that is not soaked that we could make camp?
Yes, just ahead of you.
Like
You can see
Okay.
kind of loamy soil emerging from this kind of inland sea.
So if we follow the moose's footprints back a little bit and into the...
Will you make a fire?
Can we? Now that we... Well, let's see. I guess the coal is not for that.
The coals were to generate smoke, perhaps just make the bees sleepy.
Well, fire can do that too. I don't know what these bees behave like, so I don't know whether it's in our interest to have a smoky fire to make them not
Matthias, you were
give us any trouble.
a scout. How do you feel about the possibility of a fire?
As long as the moose is kind of moving away, and I whisper back to everybody and say that's truly dangerous. Anyways, I don't laugh, but I do give them a good hum. For the fire, though, yeah, I think that with the environment here, I feel fairly confident that a fire would be good. It usually is at night, unless there's danger of bandits and that sort of thing, and I hope that it'll keep the bees and everything away. And I say, with the coals, I have a tinderbox handy right here, and I'm kind of patting around where my bag was, frowning. We may have to gather some firewood. I'm looking at my compatriots and kind of saying, well, we should gather wood at least. Perhaps we can start something and use some of the old some of the old campfire to generate coals. Make the best of it, huh? Come on, come.
Yeah, okay. I can find us some dry wood, I hope. At least I know what it looks like. But I don't know how easy it's gonna be.
I'll set out to do the same. I, for one, would appreciate some light in these buzzing woods.
So, Matthias, you looked at the moose and said, that truly dangerous. What made you say so? What folk knowledge do you have about moose?
Just mooses in general are very dangerous, especially I think especially if they have little ones, but just in general, I think they'll easily angerable is kind of a thing, and it's, especially if it's a huge one with a big rack. I'm just kind of assuming that that's something that we don't want to get involved with. And I am keeping my eye out. I want to make sure that it's not coming back our way, actually.
Okay. The moose is proof that the journey is possible. It will, however, require considerable might. What about the moose's appearance lends inspiration and courage to the group?
Do you mean the fact that it has honey on it? That it has made contact with?
I suppose I'm asking really, what do you find, like, what folk knowledge about moose do you take as, like, a good omen?
Okay, so it could be something like literally like folk knowledge or something like that. Yeah, Matthias then I'll say that a moose can always find its way back to safety from a dangerous spot, but it'll mean you'll have to be strong. And I kind of look at Kato and nod. You have to be strong. I'm pointing like this one, although I don't quite ever focus on him.
Kato cringes away from your finger, like.
But if we can maintain our ferocity, we'll make it there and back. That's what that means. I knew it would come to me. Sometimes I'm a bit slow. Just have to take other people's messages. But I know I've heard tale of these things.
So you are camping in the Humming Wood. It's still warm and humid and fragrant. But you're safe for now. As you tell stories of moose. I think that we will take a 15-minute break. So that's the end of Ring 2. And I'm also going to invite Michael in here to talk to us about the incursion, if that works for you. So if anybody has like water or a bio break they want to take, now's a good time.
All right.
Okay, I'll be back at 4:30.
Cool. Welcome, Michael. I guess you're muted. And Defend. So, Michael, who is now in the Discord, is the author of this particular incursion. And so, if anybody in chat or in this group of people has questions that they want to ask Michael, they should feel free. Otherwise, I think my two questions are why bees and why Trophy Dark?
starting with the big question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to start by saying it's super exciting to get this crew of creative people go through so Trophy Dark. I think that when I first read Trophy, it appeared in the decks. Grabbed my attention in a way that a lot of games hadn't. Primarily on two. One, it was rules light. Didn't take up too many pages, so you could get up pretty quick. And second, I really liked the fact that it seemed geared towards a play to lose mentality, which takes so much of the pressure off of someone as a player. I'm like, oh, I need to at all time maximizing characters' output. I bring back the most Vive all the way through count versions and into the heaven and whatever. I like the fact that it gives your story a natural endpoint. So at the end of the session, you know what's going to happen more or less to everyone. The best theirs to the way that the narrative.
Yeah.
The other why be?
Yes.
It wasn't bees in particular that I was the most interested in. Just really well. This Unpleasant Hum or a Trophy Dark incursion rating. The thing that appealed about the comic was creator of Trophy Dark prepared the rules, effectively an outline of how incursion needs to happen in each round to push the narrative forward. It meant that there was already an outline for how to create a new incursion. All I had to do was find out what were the themes and motifs that I wanted to put in there. A lifelong fast with the idea of consciousness, alternate forms of consciousness, models, hive minds, communication through pheromones, not just bee behavior, but your non-human consciousness. It was just like a magpie with these little ideas from time of interesting nonfiction works.
I think
It's like there were octopi decorate outside of their homes, little rocks that they seem to like. And what does that mean to them? What does it mean to have this mind is separated into a bunch of tentacles?
I
That
have
stuff sort of added up. For you, please.
yeah, no. I am just going to sidestep cephalopod consciousness because that's a super interesting topic and I can be a nerd about that for a while. But another thing that we've talked about before is kind of the inherent in like when you're describing like, you know, Trophy is fundamentally like an incursion in search of treasure. And so where you're entering the incursion to and who is in the way of treasure can really kind of set the tone for who the players are. And so I like bees, one, because, and I'm just going to answer this question as if you had asked me why bees. But like, I have been stung by a bee. Like, this is something I can relate to. I know what that pain is like. I know what the swelling is like. You know, I've seen bees with their like fat legs loaded down with pollen. And so I know what that looks like. I don't know what it's like to be faced with even, you know, an angry wolf. Like, I have never seen an angry wolf prowling around trying to eat me or my friends. And so I like how relatable the threat in this incursion is. And then I also like, and this is the thing we've actually talked about before, that like the idea of robbing honey from some bees is much more palatable than the idea of robbing, you know, treasure from some other group of people, right? I don't need to be convinced that bee feelings aren't worth pausing over. You know, whereas
it soothes your conscience a little bit, I guess, if
Mm-hmm.
you're like, oh well, they're not human.
they're not human.
Is one of the big
Yeah.
it's that's going on in the role playing space right now, which is the dehumanizing of antagonists
Mm-hmm.
playing settings and
Yeah.
humanoids tagged as non-human.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make your seem clean and unknowable to the point where it was unclear if they're sapient,
Mm.
or if they're just running the equivalent of a biological program, that they have drives, they seek to fulfill those drives.
Mm-hmm.
Without bogging down an incursion where you're running around in the woods and maybe stabbing things with fire. Well, you know, are any of us more than driven by biological?
Yeah.
It's for the sequel, I guess.
Yeah, which is kind of exciting because since I guess people in chat don't know about this, but necessarily, but you are expanding on a lot of the ideas introduced in a Warm and Pleasant Hum in to the Trophy Gold book, right? So it's actually going in Trophy Gold, which was just kickstarted. I mean, all of Trophy was just kickstarted. And so Trophy and Trophy Gold are getting expanded into being actual books. And so eventually you will be able to go to a store and buy Trophy instead of right now where you have to track down that zine it was published in at the one time. And if Epidiah is still watching, I would love to buy a Swords Without Master book. Just saying. Speaking of games that were published in zines, which sounds disparaging, but is actually just like a, you know, very real way the indie game scene publishes. But anyway, yeah. So you're expanding it into gold, and I guess I have the pleasure of having read that. But for people who don't know as much about Trophy. Trophy Dark is very much like Play to Lose narrative horror, whereas it's possible to survive in gold, and you know you may leave with more treasure than you came in with, and so it's very different. Trophy Gold is more rules light OSR than narrative horror, and so like, did you have challenges in expanding the scene into Trophy Gold? I still feel bad asking questions that I know the answer to.
It was a struggle. So I was initially just asked, can I take a Warman or Trophy Gold? And I ended up feeling that I a good fit for the system because a number of structural reasons. Trophy Gold, more free action, like warm and pleasant hum of a funnel for players. There's a lot of interesting things to look at and interact with. You're still going from ring 1 to 5. That no real veering off. What I ended up doing was imagining a new scenario for the bees. Still interested in exploring those where treasure hunters don't feel guilty about the treasures that they're picking up. You're not really wronging other people or things. So, a Trophy Gold scenario that I set up is in a city that's been abandoned because bees moved in. Underground, so the players been essentially given a mark like Vatirs used to be given, where you'll be a legal pirate. Please go into this city, find out what's going on with all the bees that are living there now. If you find anything nice that got left behind, people who fled, in your pockets.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that scenario is going to appear in the Trophy Gold book that out next.
I like, because I've read it, but I like the way you expanded on bee consciousness there, right? Because the same themes that you like introduce here, where it's like, how much are the bees aware, kind of get expanded, and so I'm pretty excited about that. And yeah. Anything else you want to share with the audience, I guess? I guess, since I didn't introduce you except as Michael, who wrote this incursion, Michael has written several other games, and you can find him at signalstation.itch.io, or does itch do it the other way, where it's itch.io/signalstation, as well as Signal Station on Twitter. But I don't know if there's anything else you want to plug.
It's plenty. And the only other thing that I want to plug is re-rolling in Trophy Dark. Like your dice results, that you can always add a dark die and re-roll everything.
Yeah.
Keep doing that as many times as long as not biggest value.
That's a good point. I haven't necessarily been encouraging people to do that, but I do. That is one nice thing about Trophy Dark as well, which is that you don't have to just live with your die roll. You can re-roll it. I guess JJ was getting at that earlier when he asked, well, what's the consequence going to be? And I didn't want to share that until we decided whether or not he was going to re-roll.
Yeah, so because every time you're in a new dark die, you're increasing the chance that your one's going to go up and that you're going to leave the game. So do not settle for die rolls when you could be destroying your character. My last plug. Thanks for having me. You guys have a great time with the rest of the
Great. Thank you for popping by. Sorry, I guess now this is awkward dead time while I wait for my players to get back. So if anybody in chat has questions, comments, concerns, I guess I could do like dance. I appreciate that as long as I'm being silly. I seem to look like I am in black and white in front of an orange and red background. And it's just the lighting in my office making me look funny.
Dancing in your office?
Yeah, dancing alone in my office.
More likely than you would think.
Exactly. I suppose.
This day and age, in this economy,
Yeah.
I'm sure that they budget very carefully so that they can dance.
Exactly.
Sorry, this is getting very dark all of a
It's
sudden.
okay.
I apologize.
No, the bougiest thing I do right now is I like rent essentially 3 rooms in like a commercial building. I mean, admittedly, property values in Albuquerque are very low, but like, yes, budget very carefully so that I can basically have a second apartment where I can dance by myself.
That sounds like a cool move to me.
That is pretty cool.
I'm also an online professor, so it's not super ridiculous to be like, sorry, I'm waiting for Twitter to load itself so I can once more plug the chat. This might be easier if I knew where my phone was and could be like, so how are you all feeling about the game so far?
So, far,
far-
intrigued.
Yeah, so far so good. I think it's funny because like in some, it's only my second incursion, but in some other games, it's like, oh yeah, just go for it, whatever, just like, you know, run in there. But this one's like, no, I don't want to get stung by a bee. I don't want a bee to get me. And so I feel like I'm like tiptoeing around a lot, whereas sometimes in maybe other games even it's like, just blunder through, who cares?
Well, so that was one thing that I talked to Michael about when he was in here, which is like, I know what it's like to be stung by a bee. I don't know what it's like to be mauled by a wolf. And so I have like an instinctive, I don't want that to happen when I'm describing getting stung by a bee that I just don't have with like other more perhaps serious threats.
That's funny.
That's interesting. Yeah, I could see that. I haven't been stung by a bee in a long time, but I did get stung by a wasp. I run
Ugh.
out on trails sometimes, and one got me in the calf. Luckily, I was only about a mile away from my car. But yeah, you definitely remember that.
It's not fun.
Wasps are awful. They're just like, I generally regard bees as pleasant and chill, but like, yeah, wasps will just like eat the ham out of your sandwich. I mean, like, they're horrible. Like I don't know. They eat carrion. Like their stings are just crazy.
I mean, there's lots of species of bee and wasp, many
That
of
is
which are. Okay, well,
I think I'm gonna use that expression, "eat the ham out of your sandwich" for many things now. But yeah,
Enjoy.
It's very
It is-
strong, yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna remind people that there are many species of bee and wasp because I feel like that's a good thing to remind people of, honestly. It's true.
The other thing Michael plugged during his interview bit was you are always welcome to reroll, any of you. And so Trophy does have a mechanic where you can reroll if you don't like the result, and you just add a dark die. Which means you're more likely to take Ruin, but things are more likely to go according to plan.
I think I don't quite understand how the light and dark dice affect a result.
So
Want more chances? I'll let you actually talk. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's fine. A complete success is a 6. And so
Whether it's light or dark.
whether it's light or dark.
Oh.
And so a 6 is a complete success. But if the highest number showing is on a dark die, or a dark die is tied for the highest number, and that number is higher than your ruin goes up. And so since you become not a player anymore at 6 ruin, that means that there's like a trade-off. Dark dice are nice, you can get a better number, but like also scary.
I see. Interesting.
I will say that at 5 ruin you can ask for a reduction roll by sabotaging the party. So, yeah, if we get there.
Good to know.
So, we're entering ring 3.
Is that a measure of time only?
It's more in measure of narrative moments. So, yes. And the structure of which incursions are written. And so, you wake up in a deciduous forest, in soft, loamy soil. You see that the fire has gone out sometime while you were sleeping. And you are all still dusted with pollen. Although you can still see the golden rimmed moose tracks leading backwards deeper into the woods. How do you proceed?
waking up, I kind of, excuse me, waking up, I kind of laugh and just like clap off my hands of some of the pollen, although it's not going to all come off, and let it dust around a little bit. And I'm like, friends, wake up, kind of trying to get everybody to start moving, and maybe grab some of the wood that's in the fire that might be usable to make smoke. Like, hopefully it's really hardened. I don't know. I think that's how the charcoal might work. I don't know. But whatever I could use maybe to take along with us that will that'll cause smoke. I'm assuming something for the campfire would help. And getting just a little bit of that in my pocket. I lost my bag. I do frown at that and kind of glare around. And say to Linnea, like, kind of point off and say, check your writing map there, and that should be the way. See, we'll be there soon. I told you we'd be there soon. We'll be there soon. I'll trot off towards the trail entrance, and listening around, trying to make sure there's nothing like really nearby to kind of jump at us or anything.
You still see the small bees that at this point have become ubiquitous. So you see bees the size of the ones you remember from childhood, just small little bees floating place to place. And you do see some as large as cats and dogs. Those fly lower, closer to the ground. But nothing seems to notice you yet. Linnea, how do you respond to Matthias's encouragement to check your map?
Linnea starts to almost comically dust the layer of pollen off of the map, and as Matthias runs up the trail, it's like, Matthias, don't... stars above.
It's definitely not just
go too far.
Pollen at this point. It is also chitin. These are generations of bee exoskeletons that contribute to the softness of the soil.
So it's like little particles of chitin, or
Yep.
Okay.
Like basically pulverized bee skeletons, right? So, and how does Cato feel about Matthias's shenanigans?
He's watching him nervously and maybe trying to call him back a little bit. Maybe like trying to gather up his stuff quickly and go after him, because he's worried that Matthias is going to just end up somewhere and get swallowed up by a quicksand or something.
Fair enough. Although, certainly, Matthias is still, he could be leading you into a trap.
Yeah, please grab him before he makes more friends for us.
I'm over there humming and wiggling my shoulder blades, but I am legitimately scouting too, but also kind of, ranging a little bit.
So, the morning goes mostly uneventfully until kind of mid-morning, when Matthias, you see venturing out from the heart of the woods a dog the size of a German Shepherd, a bee the size of a German Shepherd, crawling on the ground. And this is not like the bees you've seen so far, which seem mostly harmless, if not inherently menacing. This particular bee looks mean. And even the other bees seem to give it a bit of a berth, as its antenna flick here and there, investigating where around it.
Yeah, I definitely slow down. I kind of signal behind me, waving my hands, and then I'll slowly kind of and quietly just trot back to everybody and say, there's a ferocious specimen of one of the little friends over there. I'm not sure. We might have to trek around it. Watch for more.
The bee hears you and turns towards you, and you can see it ambling in your direction. What do you do?
I am.
It does not.
'cause-
As much as it is threatening, it is not yet in warrior mode. It is merely curious.
Does Kato or Linnea, do either of you have weapons or any kind of armament or something like that?
Not to my knowledge. Kato's gonna freeze.
You can have come prepared if you would have liked.
Mm.
This is unlike D&D. You can say it would make sense if I had this thing, and as long as it actually would make sense, you can have said thing.
What would be a good weapon to have brought?
I think Linnea probably does have like a dagger and maybe a pistol on her, but I think Linnea is going to, at least initially, think the thing that I frequently forget in real life, which is if you freeze, the bee probably won't bother you. Probably.
So Linnea is going to
Okay.
freeze.
Freeze
As-
with one hand kind of near where my dagger is on my belt.
You feel the probing antenna flick over you and then move on.
I think what Kato has for a weapon is probably a couple of Molotov cocktails, because he knows that bees. A good way to kill a bee is to make it too hot, and also it's a good way to destroy a hive. But he's not going to use it. He's just frozen in half-thinking terror.
Well, I'm putting myself in danger because I was kind of eyeballing them when it started coming up. Though I was 100% skipping somewhat into the woods to hide. I'd rather stay still, but no. Matthias is gonna. He's like looks to see who's armed and then goes.
So I guess that's a roll to hide. And I think the risk here is that you are still moving when the bee's antenna flick towards you. And the reward is you successfully hide before such a thing happens. And so, do you have any skills that would help you?
Yeah, I have evasion.
Evasion, okay. And any rituals you want to use?
No, not yet. Also, I don't know if it would actually be applicable.
Okay. Do you want to put yourself? Do you want to put yourself in danger?
Yeah. I feel like this might be somewhat dangerous, especially after I warned them.
Okay.
They kind of freeze, and I'm like, I'm out of here. So yeah.
So that's one light die and one dark die. We can think of devil's bargains. I know which one I would suggest, which is you back right into a second bee of similar size and ferociousness.
No, the devil's bargains.
Oh boy. Let's see.
Perhaps as Devil's Bargain, the bee takes a particular interest in our stuff. So now there is a potentially aggressive bee between us and our supplies.
Mm.
You could step in a chuck hole and hurt yourself.
That's true.
Let's see.
Perhaps the interested bee, if that's agreeable.
Mm-hmm. So the bee is particularly interested in your stuff. So that's 2 light dice and 1 dark die.
5, I'll take it as I slip off somewhat.
5 on the light die. So yeah, you slip off and find yourself crunching in this kind of loamy depth of chitin, right? And so you find that your footfalls are making a quiet but distinct crunch. And so the bee follows you, easily following the noise of your footfalls, and you find yourself separated from the stuff. This bee is between you and your party and those things that they have.
So when it's our stuff, is it like it's like our camp with our
Yeah,
pets or
and
something?
I
Okay.
think specifically right now, the person who is cut off is Matthias. And for the rest of you, he was your scout, right? He was the way that he...
was.
Yeah, he was the way you knew where you were going. But now he is backing away from this vicious looking bee, kind of, and not leading the way at all. And you can't get to him because there is a bee in the way. And a large one at that.
It's starting to look like a waited out situation to me. I don't know about Linnea.
Yeah, this feels like one not to rush into.
Yep.
So, Matthias, how are you going to solve the pursuit of this particular bee?
Did it ever seem like, or I don't know if I could notice this in just a moment, but if I could, did it seem like it was attracted, was it attracted to the sounds? Like to
It is
kind of
following you based on the sound.
more-
And this bee is definitely some sort of guard or soldier, right? If this bee determines you are a threat, it will not hesitate to sting.
Okay. As I'm kind of backing away from it and I sort of slow down, I'm going to pick up maybe a rock or something a little bit large and kind of try to toss it away from all of us. So like if I'm moving backwards, kind of out to the sides, away from the group also, but definitely away from me more than anything else. So something heavy to maybe make a little bit of a rustle over there and see if that distracts it without being aggressive towards it at all.
Okay, so you're going to try and distract this bee. So I think that's a risk roll. The consequence being it determines you are a threat, and the reward being the bee pursues the sound you made farther away. And so, do you have any skills that would help?
I want to stretch something here, but I don't think that it would work. I'll just say no. I don't think so.
Okay.
I could.
Are you willing to put yourself at risk?
Yes. At
Okay.
this point.
So that's one dark
I'm a
die.
bit nervous about these ones.
Is there a ritual you're using?
That was what I was wondering. I mean, do I get the sense that these things are so fantastical that they would be counted as something that would be a spirit, or is that like literally it'd be something that would be disembodied?
They may be piloted by a spirit, but these are not spirits. These are bees.
For now, I'll wait. I'll wait then for a super dangerous moment to see
Mhm.
if there's any sort of spirit things.
Okay, so that's one dark die.
Yeah,
Is
you know what,
there a
now that I'm
devil's
actually away
bargain?
from everybody.
Sorry, what were you saying, JJ?
Oh, no, that's okay. I was seeing if anybody came at the devil's bargain. I'm actually going to use one of my rituals. I am going to use rewind, and I'm going to slightly push an animal back in time,
What does that look like?
which is going to be. Actually, I stop looking around at everything, and my eyes are always kind of darting around oddly, like they're seeing other things, and they actually stop and they focus. And I feel like what it is that I actually, in the slightly swirly other world, I see all this starting to happen, and it's not so much that I'm rewinding time; it's that if it works out, I see what was going to happen and I avoid that particular circumstance. So pushing this little thing, just like this little pocket of knowing that the creature was going to move there, and so it'll be me like looking around, and it'll be moved just slightly back from where I last noticed, and maybe I'll be able to get back to everybody.
Okay. So that's 2 dark dice. I think my devil's bargain is going to remain the same, which is this bee is not alone. Does anybody have another one that they would like to suggest?
Another way to try to solve this problem. Sorry, I missed.
Another devil's bargain.
Oh, another one. Forgive me. I thought you were saying another bee for a second there, and I was like, wait a minute. Alright. Let's see. I'm terrible at devil's bargains, so
It's okay.
somebody's not missed.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I have one since the last one kind of got us into this situation.
All right, we'll go with another beast, so I can just pick up one of those dark
Okay.
dice. So,
So 1 light die,
So we're gonna
2
pick
dark
up a-
dice.
all right.
Well, you
So
can
I don't
always
think any of
add a
that
dark
worked out
die
for me.
and reroll if you wanted to get a complete success. Or, you know, a partial success. Any sort of success. You could add a dark die and reroll.
All right, let's do that. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, success.
That's a good reroll.
So, your ruin goes up by 1. Now, I think you cannot stop humming. Before, you would occasionally take a break and use real words. But now, I think it's just persistent. In the meantime, yeah, you kind of at the same time throw the rock and shove the bee back in time, and its eyes, well, its antenna focus on the new source of sound as the rock comes crashing down, and it forgets that you were there, and it ambles off into the woods, and you have just enough time to catch your breath when you see its companion creeping up behind you. How will you deal with this new threat? And this is actually at all 3 of you. There is a second one of these bees. Freezing worked the first time. Will you freeze again?
If I've made it back up to everybody, basically like having distracted that one and kind of just come back, having rewound that little portion of it, I will definitely try to stop, and I'm going to try and sort of start to say something, but instead of just kind of buzzingly humming at everybody, just kind of like smiling and humming, but I'm staying still.
Okay. What thoughts do the 3 of you? Like, what do you visualize to remain still and calm?
If we're going with remaining still, I think it is Linnea's envisioning a sunny day on the sea with a gentle breeze, just enough to keep you pushed forward without much effort.
So this bee steps up to Kato, who is still covered with the pollen from the goldenrod earlier, and begins prying the pollen off of Kato with its mandibles, packing it onto its legs. How do you...
Presumably it's like as tall as I am, right? Like it's standing up
Yes.
on its...
Yep.
Yeah. Ugh.
How,
That's a whole thing.
how do you keep calm through this? And if so, how? I think actually the do you keep calm might be a ruin roll.
Yeah.
This is pretty
I could
horrifying.
definitely see that being the case. Yeah.
So it's
He's
one
definitely
dark
gonna
die.
try to keep calm, but yeah. I feel like it's a valid thing to roll. What is one roll for ruin?
Just one dark die.
Or-
So trophy
Oh, okay. Thank you.
0-1.
Yeah. Whoops.
No, that's actually good. Your ruin does not go up.
Oh, okay. Oh,
and
sorry.
so yeah, what do you say? Yeah, no, it's ruin rolls lower is better. Risk rolls higher is better. And so, what do you visualize to say calm?
He's thinking of, like an old tree on the family farm that has just been there forever. It's like an oak tree, and it's just standing there and has been there for hundreds of years, he assumes.
How do you respond to the way Matthias's humming is egging this bee on? Why did
It
the
is
bee
making...
harvest the pollen off of your face and shoulders when Matthias has so much more on his arms?
He's definitely starting to assume that Matthias is getting suborned by the bees, although he doesn't really know what form that is taking. So he thinks that Matthias? TH sound?
Yes.
Oh, hard T, but
Oh,
however you want to say
T.
it. However you want to say it is totally cool.
Okay, so he thinks that Matthias probably will do a good job of getting them to the goal, but Kato's starting to get worried about him wanting to or doing a good job of leaving again afterwards. That is what he is thinking about.
So
Maybe a
Linnea,
little too mature for him, really, but...
Linnea is imagining a nice day, and Kato is imagining a tree on the family farm, and Matthias is humming as perfectly still as he could be. Eventually, the bee finishes its harvesting and moves on. It's itself leading the way out of the woods. Time goes by as you press deeper and deeper into the humming woods. And at one point, Linnea, you look down and you see that the waxed canvas sack that you brought to harvest that royal jelly has a tear. And as you kind of investigate the tear, you see that this is actually very clearly a clean cut. When do you think this happened? Linnea.
Oh, sorry, I did not.
It's okay.
Somehow did not process that directly at me. My assumption would be the more rational part of my brain would be that had to happen while we were trudging through the stalks in the marsh.
Mm.
And the more worrisome part that I'm trying to tamp down still is that someone must have cut it during the night.
Who is most likely to have pursued such sabotage?
That is a good question. This is just kind of my sack.
Yep.
Purpose.
Yep.
Bag.
Well, this particular sack you had treated so that you could harvest the royal jelly, right? You are venturing into the woods in search of this elixir, that food which the mother of millions eats. And so with you, you brought a wax-coated canvas sack so that you could shovel or pour the elixir into it and carry some out. And now your particular sack has been cut. Whereas Cato and Matthias still have theirs.
I think my initial assumption is Cato, simply because while I don't know that Matthias would not sabotage us at this point, I don't feel like this is, at this moment, Matthias's particular brand of sabotage.
The issue is that your sack won't hold any fluid now, royal jelly or otherwise. And so if you would like to reap the rewards of the harvest when you get there, you will have to take a sack from someone else in the party.
Quandary. Are we still in bee avoidance mode?
You're not frozen anymore, but as you have gone through the day, you have continued to see the occasional giant bee, some as large as a mastiff. And so you have been freezing in compromising positions throughout the day. And you know not to be too loud or kick up too much of a fuss, lest these soldiers pursue you.
All right. If there is time for it, I think I may file that information away and begin to think about the best way to get my hands on another treated bag.
Linnea, wait, no, not Linnea, sorry. Cato, after some time has passed, you look back and you see Linnea, who has been unusually quiet for the last while. And she now has so many bees buzzing around her head that it resembles a seething crown in motion. This is a humming halo, entirely different from those bees that pursue everyone else. Right? These are still the small bees that you remember from your childhood, and they seem to be in a particular orbit around Linnea's head, one that she scarcely seems to notice. What could this strange coronation mean?
Well, if I'm thinking from a paranoid point of view, it's possible that they're marking her out for their attention next, as they did with Matthias.
Why would Linnea have been chosen by the bees?
Well, why not? She's let's see. She's an adult, she has skills. I don't know what the bees really want. Like, what would they do with people apart from,
What would they do? How would they know about Linnea's skills? You've all walked the same path. You've all done the same things. Why have the other two been chosen, right? Here they've marked Linnea as their own, And you know that they've subverted Matthias.
I don't know. I don't know what it means. Maybe she's secretly in league with them.
Would that mean that
Maybe
you are
she
the
has
only
that.
one? You are the only one on this journey that is not in league with the beast?
Maybe. Why am I making this journey? This is a terrible idea.
Perhaps you should have chosen your companions with more care.
I didn't think it mattered so much. It was, I thought they knew what they were doing. So I guess I'm getting twitchier and twitchier, and starting to like look like around behind me and in just arbitrary directions in a really kind of like spasmodic quick way.
Linnea, you see Kato begin to eye you. You know that they cut your sack. And now they are continuously glancing back at you. What else might Kato be planning? What other sabotage?
Well, wouldn't dude simply make it so that he's the only one who could reap any of the rewards of this expedition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surely these woods are dark and deep, and some, let's say, accident could happen to befall everyone but Kato.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's the logical escalation.
You have been walking all day, following Matthias's hummed and gesticulated directions. And yet you seem to be no closer to that sixth-form heart. Can Matthias be trusted? Kato has insisted that Matthias cannot be, but perhaps it is Kato who is not to be trusted.
Well, Linnea is not sure she can trust either of them at this point, though for very different reasons. I think Linnea is beginning to believe that Kato may be plotting active sabotage against them, while Matthias may simply be given over to the forest.
The sun is setting, and some time ago you lost the track of the moose's footprints. But you are tired and yawning, full of the soporific stupor and heavy smell of pollen that permeates the wood. How do you choose a place to camp?
Have to be a little weird, I suspect. We're probably gonna keep distance from one another around the fire, or what should
Will
we
you
do?
have a fire?
I think so. I think light and smoke is still reassuring.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, if they go to gather wood and stuff like that, even though I'm humming about, I'll still look for a nice clearing, but one maybe with a tree that I could get in, just sort of watch everybody. But certainly find a little clearing and happily hum about, just moving branches and things out of the way.
Linnea, what lullaby from your childhood does the harmony of Matthias with the woods themselves remind you of? What was it about? Did it involve the rocking of children? Sweetness of honey. The warmth of the heart.
Sorry, who was that directed at?
That was directed at Linnea.
Oh, jeez, I'm sorry.
It's
I'm
okay.
not processing my name for some reason.
I also
I think to continue. Oh, go ahead.
will say to all of you that it is now so oppressively warm here that the fire is borderline unpleasant. You would like to be protected by the smoke, but it is difficult to sit too close to the fire.
I think for Linnea, that makes a perfect excuse to sleep a good distance from her companions.
Mm.
Same. I think, yeah. Equilateral triangle.
What childhood memory do you recall to help you sleep?
Who, me?
Sure.
I will go straight for the obvious thing and say that he thinks of his mother showing him how to smoke the bees so they could take the honeycomb out of the boxes, the bee boxes, hives, the frames. That's how it's called. Sorry.
What about you, Matthias?
I think that I remember pleasantly going through a completely different wood, but one that reminds me that it's like golden hue, and traveling around there, sort of learning the way of rangering about and finding wild honeycombs, and sort of just eyeballing them, shooing the bees out of the way, but not really taking too much, just knowing where these things were and being amused that I knew that other people didn't know. Kind of being able to find the way. And in fact, speaking of finding the way, is there a point, if I try to stay awake, at which, sorry, Linnea, at which Linnea goes to sleep, and I could take that map, because I don't think that she's actually sending us the correct direction. I'd probably be better off doing it, and that way I could reduce my ruin. So if there's a way, I'm definitely thinking about just having scouted my way about, to find the honeycombs, but keeping an eye on Linnea to see if I can get that map, and because I don't think that we're going quite the right way. We should have been there yesterday.
I'm gonna say that yes, but this is a risk roll, lest Linnea catch you. So, it just makes sense for this to be a risk roll. I think devil's bargain here is that you deposit some of the pollen from your arms so that Linnea knows who it is that took the map.
Yes.
So that's one light die for that devil's bargain. And then, do you have any skills that you're going to use?
I mean, could I make a point saying that listening will be able to, although I understand I'm humming, listening to make sure that their breathing is even and that she's sleeping.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're humming, but it is scarcely noticeable above the loud hum of the wood.
Okay.
You are not the only one humming here.
I don't think that I can actually risk anymore. I can feel the presences pressing around me, and I kind of feel like there's more that I need to do before I stumble into that. So I'm just gonna go with the devil's bargain.
Yeah.
And my skill.
2 light
Oh,
dice.
dang.
Wow.
Yeah. You grab that map. So make a reduction roll, which I believe is just 1 light die.
Okay.
I might be wrong about what a reduction roll is.
That's good, right? It was below.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I just kind of took the map. I took the map and sort of shredded it slightly. I don't know, and kind of tossed it about where there might be. Oh wait, there'll be no bees right now because they're all asleep. Just scatter it out into the woods and then come back to my little hidey hole in my tree.
So how do you react when you wake up, Linnea, and you see chunks of pollen where once there was what words am I looking for? Chunks of pollen where once there was the map.
Let's see. I don't think I want to give away the game just yet, so I think I'm just gonna say like, well, the bees must have gotten into my pack in the night. I suppose, Matthias, we're going to have to rely on your sense of direction to move further.
When Linnea kind of tells me that, and I kind of jump and I'm like, oh yes. I'm pulling my gloves back up over my arms that I've had pretty much exposed the whole time, and kind of like noticing, eyeballing like the side where all the pollen is and things, kind of going. Oh, don't even say yes. I go.
So
nod, and I hop down to be ready.
Just to rewind a little bit, Linnea, you were or are a ship's captain, right? And so you were admiring the sky as you went to sleep, watching the stars. And which constellation did you look at that brought you comfort? Because you know that following that constellation will always lead you home.
I think it was the constellation Orion. I think it's out of character. I know it's one of the few that I can pick out just any time that's visible, and so I think it is. Linnea's the same way. I think she can pick it out of the sky no matter what, and the time of year that it is visible, she knows which way to go relative to the constellation to find her way home.
And so, how will Linnea feel when the crush of trees and branches above your heads means that you can no longer pick out Orion?
Disquieted. Without the stars and without the map, definitely worried and inconfident in both her own ability to navigate and her companion's ability to do so.
As you proceed the next morning, the trees are getting denser. Glimpses of the sky become rare. As you follow the sound of the rising hum, you see more soldiers today. Giant bees and their smaller scouts and workers that are proceeding outwards, presumably from that sixth form heart, taking on their daily patrols. How do you avoid the bees today?
Is there any point where maybe we find the body of a like one of the worker bees that's just kind of off the path? Maybe it just got old and just went there, or I don't know if they like take the bodies away or anything like that. But do we ever find anything like any like bodily remains from one of the bees? Let's put it that way.
Aside from the crunch of chitin beneath your feet, no, because bees do actually have funerary practices. And so it's possible that you see that because you see worker bees carrying back one of their injured fellows, brethren. However, there are bees that you could kill if you wanted to make a body.
Matthias is not quite that crazy yet.
But I think Linnea is just desperate enough to go for that idea.
Yeah, you know what I was thinking.
Is it so? If Linnea can convince Kato that this isn't a terrible idea, Kato has poison. Or ability in poison. So, he could help.
I do have a skill in convincing. Would this be a risk roll to rope Kato into this plan?
I'm actually gonna say yeah.
All right.
Risk roll, skill in convincing. If you're using a risk roll, you can have a dark die.
Saw as a devil's bargain, that would be 1 light die, 1 dark die.
Yep. Wait, are you using a ritual?
No, just a skill.
Then just 1 light die.
Got it. Two.
Oof.
You can add a dark die and reroll.
Sure, I like that possibility.
Would it not have been possible to roll if there wasn't any skill that would have been relevant in this case?
She, as in Linnea, could put themselves at risk
Sure.
in trying to convince you.
Sure. No, I was just trying to picture what the roll would look like if it didn't have a skill attached to it.
And
Okay.
explicitly, like, one way that you can put yourself at risk is damaging your own mental health. Like, so that can be a psychological risk.
Interesting.
So I guess that's 1-1 for Linnea.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Let's go. There it is. So it begins.
Yes. So your ruin goes up by 1, and let's think what condition you should have.
I believe I'm at 4 ruin now.
Same.
You are hungry. You did not expect this to take so long, and you find your stomach growling, and the sweet soporific smell in the air is all too tempting. You want sugar. Honey, in fact. But on the other hand, that was a partial success, and so you convince Kato of your purpose. And so you need a bee body. Although I think in doing so, Kato becomes increasingly convinced that you are up to something, in part because of the enthusiasm of your crown of bees. Also, I don't know why I said enthusiasm that way.
Killing a bee, or thinking about killing a bee, should be a mark in her favor, I would imagine, but maybe it's just very confusing. It's just,
yeah.
It seems like.
I think
sense. Okay.
it's more that she is trying to convince you to put yourself at risk. Right?
I see.
And so you're talking about killing a bee, but like, for whatever reason, it's got to be you, and Linnea wasn't going to do it herself?
I'm happy to help. How did you want to do this? What, did you have a plan? I can set up some poison and we can try to draw the bee to it, but I don't know how these things how much is needed, or did you have another plan and you just wanted to like poison a blade or something?
I mean, my other plan was to simply draw a knife and attempt to stab a bee, but I thought perhaps luring a bee in and poisoning it with some pollen dusted with poison might be slightly more prudent.
Okay. All right.
Because I like this idea, I'm going to point out that you could poison Matthias's arms.
I was about to say, we certainly have no shortage of pollen.
But we already know that the bees are not, or at least Cato thinks that the bees are no longer interested in eating the pollen off Matthias, presumably because he is one of theirs now.
He is on his way to bring it to the Sixth Form Heart, so...
Indeed. So there's no need for them to come and take it off him. So we need to make something else that is enticing. Is there another clear source of pollen nearby? Is there another, like...
The flowers are less dense on the ground here. Crowded as the canopy is, so there's not much light on the ground. But probably with some work, you could gather pollen.
Okay.
A substantial...
Since we are in the under forest, the dark area, perhaps the poison should be mushroom of some variety, because perhaps they're present. Alternately, I suppose it could be some kind of
You do see quite a bit of yellow and black striped fingerling fungus. And you have heard rumors of its toxicity. It is certainly the only thing that seems to be left undisturbed by the bees.
Well, this actually, hilariously, this move would theoretically be all of my skills. Deception, medicine, plants, and poison. It's everything all mushed together. Perhaps not actually, but mentally it is all of those things.
I would give you 1 die for those, like all of those skills. I think it's up to 1 die for skills. But Devil's Bargains here, I like the idea that Matthias finds himself attracted by whatever pile of pollen you put together.
Oh God. And we have to keep him away.
And would
himself
have to make a ruin roll to avoid eating this poison pile.
Oh boy. Normally in an RPG I would never choose that, but this one I think you're trying to sow a lot of discord, so...
Yes, I would say fun. It's less, like, PvP rules don't really exist in Trophy, but, like, PvP intent, absolutely fine.
Yeah, I will probably take that bargain, but I will warn, Linnea that she might have to hold Matthias away from it.
Okay.
Yeah, since we stopped and they're kind of talking about these things, I start like humming about like where the pollen is and stuff, like oddly curiously, like I'm trying to get maybe some bee stuff on me. I was messing with the chitin, but then I realized I like the pollen a little bit. I'm kind of suspiciously looking at Cato, but I'm like gathering pollen, putting it on my arms now.
I think that counts as a reduction roll, right? Like, this is more sabotage. You are trying to, like, deplete the pile. Is that what you're going for, or am I misreading?
Oh, just to give kind of like a foreshadowing of why I would kind of like start going over.
So you yourself are packing pollen on your arms. Okay, great. So
just starting to do that like without noticing, just as the part of the Devil's Bargain. Yeah.
I would say this is kind of a two-parter. I think we have the skill to gather the pollen and the poison. And then we have the risk roll to lure a bee to it. Right? And I think the gathering is separate because these woods are full of bees. You will have to be working your way around bees as you gather this pollen and these mushrooms.
Okay. How shall I then roll?
I mean, you're also welcome to have Linnea roll.
Oh, for gathering?
Yeah. Like, you know.
Is there a reason I would do
because you don't want to take her in. Like, actually what this is you are welcome to have Linnea put herself at risk by just being like, oh, go gather those mushrooms. And so it's up to you. If you want to roll for the gathering yourself, that is completely fine.
Party infighting is new to me.
We're just taking turns throwing each other into harm's way.
Yeah. No, I know. It's just it's hard to think that way.
No, that's fair.
Yeah. I'll do it myself.
Okay.
Maybe I don't trust anyone else to do it.
So you get at least 1 die for plants. If
goodness.
you would use any rituals, you can use rituals.
I guess I could grow plants more to make it faster, but that does not seem worth it.
Okay. If you are going to put yourself in harm's way, that would be another dark die. But otherwise, it sounds like 1 light die. Let's see. Devil's Bargains.
That has already been determined, has it not?
What would you say the Devil's Bargain is?
Oh, I thought it was that,
No, that's
the,
for,
that's
I
for
would
the-
say
that's
that's
for
for
the next part.
the next part, yeah.
of course.
It's not for the gathering.
For the Devil's Bargain, certainly getting in contact with some of the poison and being somewhat impaired, not like dead, but somewhat impaired in some way. Maybe I don't know. Depends on how the particular mushrooms work, but maybe like losing feeling the hands or mental
Yeah.
disruption, that kind of thing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean,
I think I have to take that one if it's real.
That's pretty
it's
good.
absolutely
Because
real.
that's just
You
a
know.
fun time.
And I think we can just be, you're lightly poisoned, you're not going to die, but like, yeah, what's happening?
Got some like numbness and maybe the humming is starting to get a little auditory hallucination-y.
Yeah. I like that. Especially like, maybe sometimes you think there's 3 of Matthias. Like, there's not just the one. Cool. So roll together. That seems like 2 light dice.
2 light dice and
Mhm.
nothing dark.
Nothing dark
Alright.
if you're not using a ritual or putting yourself in harm's way.
Well, look at that.
Great. So you gather your pile of pollen and mushrooms. And I guess now we're going to roll to lure the bee to it. And also Matthias to it.
Yes. Yeah, is this, I presume this is also my role with luring
Yeah.
the bee, or is that,
Yeah. I would say that's
Serena?
your role unless you want to give it to someone else. But like it's your skill in poison and such. So
Sure. Well, now that I've, like, placed it,
yeah.
I could see
You're welcome to
someone
toss
like-
it to Linnea. You're welcome to toss it
Well,
to
I
Linnea.
I could
I'm
see
happy to take
Matthias being a good lure.
That's
if he
also
was up
true.
for it.
I mean,
I don't
Yes,
know
I'm
what
very
else.
interested in the pile of pollen that's over there now. And I'm, in fact, sniffing around, smiling and humming,
Oh,
and
man.
kind of hovering about, looking at the pile.
Oh god, I'm picturing you doing like an actual like bee direction dance.
Definitely starting to. Yes.
yeah, I
So
would.
into it.
One, if you want to roll to attempt such a dance, Matthias, that sounds great. And 2, I think you get a ruin roll for ingesting some of this poison.
Oh no.
Oh, did I get to it? Darn it.
Yeah, well, because you're like
I was
sticking
hoping
your
that,
face
like,
in
Linnea
this
would
pile
hold me
of.
back.
Well, if they've basically decided that you're doing the bee dance, I'm not sure that's happening anymore.
Oh. Okay. Is this uncool? Should we should we not throw you to the poisoned bee wolves?
I mean, I think it's cool. But you're right. That is on JJ to answer for.
I will say I'm decidedly low on ruin here, and will happily throw myself into harm's way here. Need be.
Will it help if I do kind of do this thing?
Hmm. I mean, the other option is, Linnea, you can do the roll yourself to lure the bees. And I think one devil's bargain I would offer is that, yeah, Matthias gets by you. Sticks his face in the pollen that you so carefully poisoned.
I'd be down for that.
Okay.
I would accept that devil's bargain.
Cool. So that would give you 1 light die for the devil's bargain. Are you going to put yourself in harm's way to lure some bees?
Yes.
Cool. So that's 1 dark die. Do you have any skills that are relevant?
I do not believe so. I have a skill in convincing, but I don't feel like this is where convincing necessarily applies.
Okay. Cool. So I guess that's 1-1.
Hmm.
Do you want to add another dark
accept
die?
another dark
Yeah.
die. Absolutely.
Oopsie.
Hang on.
You may as well take a third.
Oh, damn it. Okay. I guess so, yeah. Heard that as 11 for a second there. Hey, there it is.
Yep. 1 more ruin for you. What was the condition that I gave you?
I had sleepy and I've become hungry for sugary
Oh,
things.
yes. You are super hungry for sugary things. And I think, yeah, so you lure this bee to the pile, where it begins to ingest, and masticate some of these fungi with its mandibles. And what are the effects on the bee? Does it just get so sleepy that you can easily slip your dagger into it? Or,
I'm going to assume that since it causes numbness, it's a neurotoxin, so I'm going to say paralysis.
excellent. So the bee has become paralyzed. And what will you do with its
And
remains?
how much delicious pollen do I get to manage to get my hands on before hopefully somebody stops me?
Or we pull your ass back.
Yeah, right. That's totally
Death
true.
roll.
I guess that's a ruin roll for Matthias. Let's see how much delicious pollen you get to eat.
Oh,
Okay.
can we intervene once the bee is paralyzed? And
Yes.
Try to help. Can we make it easier on him?
I think this is still a ruin roll.
Ooh, I made it under.
Yeah, but you managed to intervene before Matthias eats too much poison. Although I imagine, narratively, he may have some similar symptoms to Kato in
Yeah.
terms of this lightly poisoned situation. What do you do with the paralyzed bee?
Yeah, what was the plan?
I guess my presumption was that we could probably, I don't know, smear ourselves with bee gunk to try to make ourselves appear to the soldiers as though we were members of the hive.
I love how we didn't even talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, sure, you need a dead bee, whatever, let's do it.
Well, now what?
We should hollow it out and stick our legs through the...
There are 3 of you, and bees have 6 legs. You could totally...
Oh no!
pantomime bee. What a nightmare.
That would have been the plan before. Yeah, I was thinking bee pheromones also, hoping. But yeah, I almost wish we would have gotten one of those big German Shepherd-sized ones or Mastiff-sized ones. Bee pheromones, though.
Yeah, bee pheromones.
Bee pheromones.
Cool. So you smear yourself with bee gunk, hoping that it's sufficiently pheromone laden Do any of you know where the pheromone glands in a bee are?
Well, they gotta be, probably at the face end or the tail end.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see. I'm gonna guess that it is, it's a mouth-based situation because they do so much like processing of pollen into honey, and they like puke up honey for grubs and stuff like that. So I'm gonna assume that everything goes through their mouth. So I'm
Okay.
gonna I guess I'll have to dig around in the head for
Yeah.
glands. Boy.
I mean, you can smear yourselves with bee gunk. I just think you're not entirely sure that it's super effective yet. You're just smeared in bee gunk, which is, amazing that it's taken this long, really.
It's its own reward.
Yeah. Quick question, Matthias. You did get into some of the poison pollen, right?
Yes.
And that's having some effect on you at the moment.
Presumably, Kato and I both are having a similar effect.
Yeah, like numbness in extremities, a little bit of, what did I say? Auditory hallucinations from the hums. Was what if there's more, I don't know, but...
That works for
then
me.
I would like to take the opportunity, if I may, to make a reduction roll, as I've now hit 5 ruin.
Cool. What do you want to do? How will you sabotage your compatriots?
I think since they are both feeling partial effects of the toxin, I'll be like, look here, let me offer you a hand here. I'm not accidentally impaired, and offer to help them kind of smear themselves with pheromones. And while doing so, kind of sixes between the two. While doing so, I would like to swap my now cut wax-lined bag with. I think with Matthias's wax-lined bag.
Okay, sounds good to me. Guess that's one late die. Your rune goes down by 1. For now. But shortly, now that you are progressing deeper into the woods, smeared with bee gunk, you are attracting less attention from the bees, but you see a tree. Well, you see many trees, honestly, but a tree up ahead has its profile warped by the presence of hexagon-shaped wax tiling. This tree itself is not a hive, but rather a standalone structure. Some maybe storage for the bees. And you see where the trunk reaches the ground, there is a miserable human figure, just barely clinging to life, embedded in the wax of this tree and immobile. They wear the mesh mask of a beekeeper, another amateur apiarist, here in search of the royal jelly and near the end of their failed journey. And as you approach, he looks up, his eyes swimming a bit, and says, "Water!" You can see his lips cracked and dry.
Can I tell what's wrong with him apart from dehydration?
He is quite badly bee stung. And himself seems to be humming.
Was I smart enough to have brought anti-venom?
No.
Oh, okay.
Was Matthias smart enough to have left anti-venom on the ground? Was that purple gunk from his hands
Uh-oh.
anti-venom?
No, I didn't end up bringing any. I do have my canteen. I'll give him a little bit of water though.
Yeah. you notice that the hum is in fact emanating from this person's chest, where there is a nursery chamber of bees, his ribs kind of open and full, rather than full of lungs and meat, full of this hexagon wax tiling themselves. The front of this person's shirt is sticky with honey, and Linnea, you can smell the sweetness of it.
Oh boy.
This man is full of honey. And bee grubs, but mostly honey.
Just protein.
I think Linnea steps forward to offer him some water from a canteen, and almost absent-minded, she kind of kneels in front of him and holds out the canteen to him, but her eyes are not on his face, but on his torso. And I think she, almost with her eyes kind of distant, reaches out and tentatively takes a fingerful of the honey and puts it to her lips.
As your mouth explodes in sweetness, the man's chest explodes in bees as he croaks his last, and the swarm swarms you, merging with the swarm of your crown of bees and angrily buzzing, and you can feel them start to sting you, so I think you make a Reuben roll.
It's a single dark die, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Use the correct roll this time. All right. That is less than 4.
It is true. That is less than 4. And so you do not take ruin. However, you hear the louder clack clack as some of the mastiff-sized bees turn to look at who disturbed their nursery.
I think
Well, I grab Kato and pull him away from where Linnea is, getting swarmed and everything like that. I'm shaking my head, whether or not I think I'm a little bit. Oh, actually, I don't know what I think of Kato right now. I was a little bit worried about the poison, but now it seems okay. But I'm grabbing Kato and kind of pulling him back when all the bees come out, so I'm staying clear away from where Linnea is.
And Linnea, what are you doing?
I think I draw my dagger just in case, but kind of back away from the man, then try to, I guess, hide myself behind a nearby tree trunk.
This swarm of bees, mostly the small bees, pursues you, right? The larger soldiers, perhaps, do not find you, but the ones that swarmed out of this man's body continue to swarm you, reaching down to sting you. You trip over the body of a deer, bloated and swollen from where it was stung to death. These bees could kill.
In that case, I think I am going to inhale sharply, and I think is going to try to conjure up a ritual that she has not tried to use on a swarm before, but that she's willing to give it a shot. And that is drain. Remove water from a person or animal.
I see. So you're going to drain the bees. This is a risk roll.
I wish to dry out the storm.
You have 1 dark die for the ritual. I guess you have 1 light die if you can name a skill that would help, but
I am going to pitch focus here, actually, and I think this is going to be Linnea focus it, like, shutting her eyes, breathing through her teeth, and just saying, like, focus on
I'm convinced.
the swarm, or, yeah, ignoring the buzzing swarm to focus
Mhm.
yourself and complete the ritual.
As well as the stings, because you have been stung.
Right.
Okay, so I guess that's 1-1. I don't know about any devil's bargains. Does anybody else have a good idea?
Either way, maybe in any kind of wounds, bees now reside in this like open sort of sores from where the stings really somehow dug in.
Oh god, what if she got
I
what if
love
she
that.
got some of the grubs from the guy who got hived on her, and the grubs go into the wounds?
Yeah,
that's
grub
dire.
dragon.
I love that.
I'll accept that.
Okay.
I'll become a walking hive.
Trophy 2-1. 2 light dice, 1 dark die.
Oh, look at that.
Well, your ruin goes up by 1, but yeah.
Very exciting roll.
Desiccate the swarm, and I think, yeah. I think you take a new condition, which is that you yourself are a bee nursery. You still need sugar, but you know that it's to feed the grubs that you carry with you. You see more frequent soldiers now. You have disturbed their nursery. They know that there is an invader in their woods. However, luckily, this smearing of bee gunk on yourself seems to have worked. The soldiers do not pay a special attention to you. You can tell, though, that the hive is incredibly close. You can hear the constant humming in your ears, and it's more than a hum. It's a buzz. Your chest buzzes with it. In callback to that man with the bees in his chest, you can feel the kind of tickle of constant noise. Perhaps you are not truly being hunted by these soldiers, but rather herded as you avoid them, stepping off the path and freezing. Perhaps they are driving you towards the hive. After all, it seems that at least their larvae feed on meat. Perhaps they feed the queen human flesh.
Dire implications.
At last, you come to the sixth form heart. It's a massive hive. Combs of honey, hexagons, engulf trees, and form an immense and irregular dome, surrounded by activity. You can see a giant gouge in the exterior of this wax shell, left by some immense creature. But the opening is only wide enough for one of you to pass through at a time. And even now, the bees are working to close it. Which of you will be the first to step into the sixth form heart?
I'll carefully start trotting forward to squeeze through, kind of figure out fast and light.
Kato, how do you feel about Matthias preceding you into this hive?
I think I actually feel good about it. I would prefer that he be the the first foray into the moose aperture, which I assume.
As soon as you step into the hive, you draw the attention of those soldiers that live exclusively in the hive hounds. You feel antenna run over your faces. It's hard to see where those antennae come from, trapped as you are in wax and honey and heat. You feel the antenna, and those of you that still carry pollen on themselves feel immense mandibles gently reach out to take off that pollen, prying chunks of it from you. These mandibles are easily large enough that should the wielders lose track, as those bees did earlier, they, instead of merely scratching at your arms and shoulders, they would take off your entire arm easily. The light in here is dim, filtered as it is through wax and amber honey. It is only barely large enough to proceed in single file. Matthias, in the lead, quickly has to stoop in order to aggressively enter or progress further and deeper into the hive. Which of you realizes first how easy it would be to pierce the perfumed armor of your companions?
I think I do.
I was gonna say, that sounds like you.
Yeah,
So, Cato.
if I'm going
Yeah.
to die anywhere, it's going to be on the sea, not here.
How do you feel?
I'm probably in front of her.
Yeah, exactly. I imagine the order to be Matthias, Cato, Linnea, right?
Yep.
Do
Certainly.
you notice Linnea noticing?
I'm looking around madly, but it's dark. I don't know if I really notice her change in attention. There's a lot to pay attention to. Pulls out her knife or something. I don't even know if I would perceive it as a new actual threat as opposed to my constantly imagined threat.
Matthias, do you notice now that you are missing even that wax-coated sack?
No, actually, once I'm in here, I actually might even reach back to try and like maybe grab Cato's hand, and I'm just kind of going along, but I'm not actually looking at anything anymore. In fact, I think by the time I get in here, I'm humming extremely loud. I can't hear anything, and I also like kind of give over to not being able to see anything, and I'm just trying to pull into the warmth of the hive, and I have no intention of leaving. I have every intention of finding the queen, and maybe if I can sample any of the royal jelly, but I think that the queen is going to be the epicenter of this like area of the swirling court, and I think that she might be the one to bring me up to the court. And I'm actually trying to bring my compatriot, and Cato, I believe, is the nearest one to me. I keep saying compatriot, I don't even know what that means. But my companion, and I've kind of got his hand, and I'm pulling him. But if he pulls back, I'm not going to try and hold on. I'll just go forward. So my eyes are closed, and I can almost not hear, but I'm just pushing in towards the center of this place. I'm going, if I could say anything, I'd say something about the queen. If there's a song that I can sing, it's a song about the queen, and that's where I'm leading myself to, and my friends, hopefully.
So you are singing a courting song in honor of the mother of millions. So, yeah, Kato, it seems like you have delirium in front of you. You have already lost feeling in your extremities. And you can feel Linnea's sharp eyes on your back. Do you have the temptation now to release that Molotov that you've been carrying so long?
Not yet. I'd have to wait for the. I mean, the Molotov's for the bees, to protect me. I mean, if
it is
throwing a Molotov at someone who's right in front of you is probably not a good tactical move.
So dark, and Matthias led the way in here, and you can only move single file. And so, if Matthias gets the mother, how will you get past him to collect your ration of royal elixir?
I don't think I can think that far ahead. I think I'm slowly parsing the song he's singing and realizing that he's just gonna go there and stay there.
Linnea,
it still means that we'll get to the middle.
What do you do when you notice that the bees have been sealing the wax structure behind you? Do you tell Kato? The way out has been plugged with soft, fresh wax. And so the only way you can move is further in.
I do tell them that. I think in my mind I don't trust any of my companions anymore, but I do. Kato is the one that I at least expect to leave this place alongside.
Perhaps if you turned around now, you would be able to cut your way out. Although, you would have to leave without the royal jelly you came all this way for.
No can do.
Kato's getting twitchier and twitchier and like trying to, and Matthias has got his wrist or whatever, and it's just pulling him forward, and he's just starting to he's convulsing lightly constantly because this is just an intolerable situation. It's getting really weird.
Matthias and I, Kato, do Matthias and I know that you are packing those Molotovs?
Sure. I don't think you looked in my bag, right?
I think I did.
Yeah. Matthias knows, at least, because he stole the map, right? Or wait, no, he stole
from
Linnea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I am going to ask who snaps first.
Kato, did you ever indicate that you had the Molotovs?
I don't think I would have. I mean, I don't know why I would have, especially because I got paranoid really early.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I would have gone, no information goes out of me pretty
Makes
fast.
sense.
Yeah. So I don't think I would have mentioned it.
Okay, in that case, I'm still trying to drag Kato along now. I'm thinking maybe a sacrifice would be good, but I turn back and I'm humming, and my eyes are completely open, but not seeing anything, and do a rictus of a smile at Kato as I'm in this dark, pulling him along. I'm not going to try to attack him, but I'm certainly bringing him with us. I'm maybe looking over his shoulder, my eyes and pointed over his shoulder in the direction of Linnea, also unsure of what they're doing, but trying to draw them closer.
I'm still following along, but absolutely letting Matthias go first.
Well, it's not much further that you can go. Soon Matthias has to crawl to progress.
Then I pat
Your
Kato's hand
limbs are
and
practically
smile and
pinned to your sides.
Crawling.
Okay, so I guess we're all crawling now.
There is only enough honey for one. Will Matthias step by when he gets the queen? He who is courting her. Will he let you
No,
pass?
if I can get to the honey. I want to bring them along, but just near enough to be an offering to the queen, but I'll certainly try to get the honey first if I can.
Linnea, it would just take one swift action, and then you could crawl over their bodies and claim your prize.
I was gonna say,
are you the only one?
I am. Wait, sorry.
Are you the only one thinking of such violence? Cato, surely you know that both of them would turn against you in a second.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nervous about having Linnea behind me. I feel like I don't know what Matthias is planning. Well,
but you would have to go through Matthias to get to the honey. You know that.
Yeah, I guess I know that somehow.
I know where I'm at. But also, are we all still like in?
You're in the heart.
The corridor here so tight that we still have to be like on all fours.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of an awkward way to kill someone.
Clumsiest party betrayal.
Truly.
It's not awkward if you have a Molotov at hand.
I would actually disagree. That is awkward because it's.
You can't throw it very far. That's fair.
No, that would blow up in my face.
Smash it on the ground. The glass just isn't breaking.
Oh my god! It just like sinks into the hut. Good lord.
The only way out
yeah, okay.
is through. Your companions
Okay,
are merely in your way.
If I think that Matthias, if I have twigged to the fact that Matthias is bringing me along as food, that would make me lose it.
Okay.
Probably.
I do not think that Matthias can be subtle about that.
Okay.
You know.
So maybe it's in the words of the song.
Yes. He is singing a love song to the mother of millions.
Oh, perhaps one of those nursery rhymes that sounds like somewhat okay until you really parse what the meaning is, and it's exactly bringing the friends to the wedding, for the feast kind of song.
Yes, yeah.
Bring the meat to mother. Yeah.
It's nice for the kids because
mother.
we'll finally be rid of them.
It's a very popular song. Oh god. Okay. Let's see. Do I have weapons? I know Linnea has a knife. Maybe I have a pocket knife or something.
Mm-hmm.
God, this is not. I did not plan well. I don't know what I could actually do. He's crawling ahead of me. I could just let him go and try to turn around and confer with Linnea.
I was gonna say, you could ask Linnea for a dagger.
That's true. I might do that. Why not? Let's do that. Let's
I think it's like you look over your shoulder and I am behind you, just like holding the dagger out, a handle towards you already.
Oh wow.
So brutal.
Very dark look in my eyes, like, no, we know how this ends.
Kato's like, his teeth are chattering and he's just like, is barely able to hold it, what with the mushrooms and everything. But
has Cato ever killed someone before?
Oh, Cato has probably killed like chickens.
Yeah, okay.
That is probably as far as it goes. Maybe, I guess, like, God, if we want to get weird about it, it could maybe be a hog. He might have had to kill a hog as a teen or multiple or something like that. But this is not something that he's real practiced in. So it's gonna be a weird, like, clambering, like, headlock thing where he tries to get Matthias around the, like around the shoulder, so that he can try to slit his throat.
Fair enough. So that's a risk roll, I suppose. I would say you definitely are putting yourself at risk. Like,
I would say so. I have my knowledge of medicine, perhaps, may assist.
Sure.
Or...
So that's one light die and one dark die.
Mm-hmm. Shall I give it a go?
Yep. Do you want to add another dark die?
Good enough? I don't know what is good enough. What
That's
am I trying to...
that's a partial success. So that's success with a
Partial success.
consequence.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're coming up to the end. I'll add another one. That's fun. Why not? So what is it? 1, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Just literally all fours, all the way down.
Well, I mean, you're still welcome to add another one. But I would say, I think what happens is you tackle Matthias. You bring the knife down on the back of his neck. And you are suddenly aware of how all of the soldiers around you twig to the smell of meat, which overpowers the smell of the bee goo that has been covering you so far. You have smelled like pollen and pheromones and perhaps honey, but now you smell like meat. And you see soldiers climbing their way through the improbable tunnels of this hive. They already were crawling, and so as they come up to you, they are unaffected by the same constraints on physical space as you have. And so I would say, 1, ruin roll. So just roll a dark die for me. You just killed a man. It's your first ever kill of a human.
Oh, I actually killed him. Yeah.
1 more ruin for you. You're at 5.
Looks like.
I think.
Looks
Yeah.
like.
And how will the two of you, Linnea, you have given your dagger to Kato. How will the two of you face the soldiers that now swarm around you?
How far are we from the goal?
You don't know. You have been pressing into the hive. Presumably, the queen is just up ahead. But who knows? No one, to your knowledge, has ever made it this far.
So the only other weapon Linnea carries is a small revolver. In case of pirates or what have you. And Linnea has that on her now. And I think Linnea, I guess if it's physically possible in this tunnel, like, kind of takes the lead to start shooting her way through the oncoming soldiers to make a mad scramble towards the Queen's Chamber.
Okay, I guess that's a risk roll. You're putting yourself at risk. So 1 dark die for that. Do you have any skills?
That is a fantastic question. Not particularly.
Well, I think my devil's bargain is you shoot Linnea. Or not Linnea, sorry. Kato.
Yeah.
I'll accept that.
Okay. So that's 1-1.
Alright, here we go.
Oh.
And there you go.
I accept that.
Yeah. So I think the scene ends and the game ends as you shoot your way through the soldiers and through Kato, and you make it to the Queen's Chamber, where you sit in front of that font of royal jelly and begin shoveling it down your face, even as the bees encase you in wax. And that's the end.
The key to everything I wanted is right in front of me, but I am just so hungry.
Yep. And so,
Well, the cool thing is that if it's royal jelly, you might get to become something really cool.
sure, forever. You get to sit there forever, encased in wax, as you are immortal, having dined on the royal jelly.
Oh, I see.
Incubating the little beelets.
Incubating the little
okay,
beelets.
Right. Awesome bee lady.
They're gonna be real healthy.
All right.
So, thanks for playing. That is
Thank you for
the end.
running that.
And yeah, I hope everybody had fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, the bee incursion was pretty intense, especially getting to this last section. Actually, really kind of brought it together. Actually, made me enjoy the whole thing with like all of us. Even though it is rough trying to kind of go against each other, but this last part was pretty fun. Though I really liked once we got in the hive and everybody kind of just doing things. It was cool. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last few rings really accelerated the danger.
Yeah, seriously. It's like a really sharp curve. That's interesting. Yeah, thank you for running this.
Yeah.
It was a super weird it was a super weird one. It was neat.
Like I said, it's very narrative, and because everybody survived until Ring 5, I was completely fine with like, nope, you just killed that person. Like, we're in Ring 5. The consequence here is death. No, you don't survive through Ring 5, probably.
Got it.
And so, yeah. I
would
wanted
like to
just real quick.
Throw out there.
Okay.
Good.
No, what were you gonna throw out?
No,
there?
sorry, mine was just a funny aside.
Okay. Well, I actually really quick want to do an outro, and so thank you all for playing with me, and thanks Michael who just rejoined for writing this incursion. And does anybody have anything they want to plug? I actually do want to plug real fast. I am going to be running Trophy every Sunday at the same time, and so if anybody watching this wants to play, reach out to me on Twitter. I am completely happy to take anyone. And so next weekend, I believe I will be running, as I forget my own schedule. Next weekend I will be running, that's Shiver by Ember and Ash, right? And so that is an incursion featuring a incursion, let me use that word more times. You're venturing into the forest in search of food, as it is a lean, frozen winter, and so the theme there is hunger. And so if anybody's interested in that, reach out to me on Twitter. Otherwise, if you're just interested in watching or listening, see you next week. Does anybody else have anything they want to plug? In that case, thank you all for
Just
playing.
Michael's a warm and pleasant hum. Get this incursion. It's very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will
Weird.
throw something out there, which is not next Saturday, but Saturday following. I will be streaming a playthrough of the adventure dungeon crawl from Mork Borg called The Death Cigarette.
Good name.
Expect that to be fun and incredibly fatal. As
Excellent.
as a party of doomed nerds makes their way towards a cursed cigarette.
And you're Heretic
Twitch.tv.
Soul on Twitch too?
I am. Twitch.tv/Heretic Soul.
Great. Well, in that case, thanks for playing, and I am going to sign off the stream, and then we can talk more and do more post-mortem.